Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. After doing our under 25 draft last week, we're going to be talking about some players that could be joining that list soon or some other good young players across the league as we're going to be discussing breakout players for next season today. I'm going to start off with you, Gabe. Give me one of your players you're most looking forward to watching next season who could be on the verge of a breakout.
Okay, so I kind of have different levels of breakouts, I guess, if that makes sense. So the first player that I really want to highlight is probably not going to take like an all-star jump or anything. That's not really what I'm looking at, but kind of like a player that was kind of trending to be maybe a bust, maybe out of the league, and I think can show some promise, and that is Marvin Bagley. Now in his new role with Detroit, he only played 18 games there last season, but he started 8 of them, which, I mean, he really wasn't doing a lot of anything before that. And he played his highest minutes per game since his rookie year and had his highest points per game since his rookie year. So it seemed like things were kind of on the uptick, and he was kind of getting back to the positive progression he was having really early, but he had just stagnated for so long and had a lot of drama with Sacramento. So him finding a new situation and entering Detroit, where they seem to take a lot of players that can be seen as bust or projects or just players that aren't really panning out and turning them around. And so I think they have a little bit of front court minutes to give, and I think he's ready to come in and he's ready to prove himself, happy to be in the new situation. And the mindset can be a huge thing. So just across the board, I don't know where exactly I'd project him. I don't know if he'd be even that much higher than I think he averaged about 14.6 last year in Detroit in those 18 games. But even that for a consistent season, or if he jumps to 16, I wouldn't be too surprised. And I think for where he's been, that's super impressive.
This is a Detroit Piston fan-friendly podcast, so I'm glad you mentioned Marvin Bagley. I didn't even think about him, because I was looking at Detroit. I'm like, I thought about Saddiq Bey, but I didn't want to mention him. That's a good pick, Gabe. I like that a lot. 16 points per game seems like attainable for him if he gets that starting spot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he'll start yet. I don't know. I think him and Isaiah Stewart might be battling for that spot, but either way, I think, like you say, Gabe, I think that's a good pick. I think he just enjoyed. It looked like he was enjoying playing basketball again last year, which is the biggest thing. So I think it's a much better environment and situation for him in Detroit. Definitely.
I guess I'll go. Like Gabe said, I have different level of breakouts. There's guys that I think can take an all-star league. There's guys that I think are just going to become really good rotational players. And then there's guys kind of in between that. And the first guy I'm going to take off the board, Jaden McDaniels. I think he's about to take a nice little jump this season. He's going into year 3. We already saw the promise in year 2, but he's going to have an expanded role this season. And he's going to be looked at to be the best perimeter defender for this team. Last year, there was a lot of Patrick Beverley, a lot of Jared Vanderbilt, who were very good for them. But now it's on his shoulders. They traded those guys away because they believe in Jaden McDaniels. I think he's going to turn into one of the best 3-and-D players in the league this season and could potentially make an all-defensive team. I think he has that kind of potential going into this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was someone that a lot of people, me included, were high on coming into last year, and then ultimately he really struggled to start the year, kind of fell out of the starting lineup thanks to Jared Vanderbilt's play, but there's no doubt there's a lot of upside there, specifically on the defensive end, as you mentioned. He has big expectations on that end and has shown that he can already be a very good defender. I shot the 3 a lot better later on in the year, so he's still entering his 3rd year in the league, very young. There's a lot of upside there, and there's no doubt that I think he's going to be a very valuable part of that Minnesota team.
Yes, he will have plenty of opportunity this year with them making that trade and having kind of a lack of depth across the board. So, I mean, his role is only going to grow, and I think he can take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, I think for this team to be successful, it relies a lot on Anthony Edwards, of course, becoming a superstar. And Jaden McDaniels has to be really good. He has to be able to knock down the 3-point shot even better than last year. He has to be high 30s, maybe even 40% for them to reach their fullest potential as a team.
Yeah, definitely. I think he can get there, but I think that's definitely a big part of this Minnesota team moving forward. I'm going to stick in Minnesota. Talking of depth and a potential lack of depth, I think they have a nice little scoring guard there who's going to fill in the depth role that Malik Beasley has vacated, and that's Jalen Noel. I think he's someone that Minnesota Timberwolves fans are very high on. A lot of other people don't know that much about, but he has looked like a very, very good scoring guard in the minutes he's shown. It's been slim and not necessarily consistent minutes thanks to the amount of depth they have in Minnesota, and I think their depth is good again this year, and they've already brought in a couple of guys to potentially fill in that role. They've brought in Bryn Forbes. They brought in Austin Rivers. So he is going to be competing against some vets again. But presuming he can get minutes, I think Jalen Noel just projects to be a very good backup scoring guard. He's never going to be some elite talent, but he's shown flashes of he can just be that guy who gets you a bucket off of the bench, can create his own shot, and can just get you out of that rut when you're in your second unit. Every team needs that, and I think Jalen Noel is going to take that step next season.
Such a good pick. Such a good pick. He's another guy, like, there's a few pieces, like, we know what, Cat's going to bring. We know what Rudy's going to bring. We kind of see what D'Lo kind of is now, and we expect Anthony Edwards to take we want him to take that superstar jump. But then it's the guys like Noel or Jordan McLaughlin or Jaden McDaniels. Like, those guys have to be good for this team because they lost a lot in that Rudy trade. So that's a great pick, man. That's a great pick. I'm a big Jalen Noel fan as well.
Yeah, that Minnesota team should be super interesting because it's like that second unit. It's just they signed some guys, and it's just who's going to step up and really take advantage of that opportunity because they're top heavy, but whoever can be that second unit MVP for them will be a super impactful player this season, maybe even deep in the postseason.
Should we stay in Minnesota? Because did y'all have Anthony Edwards? I'm going to just ask. Did y'all have? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I thought somebody else would have him, so I didn't put him because I'm like, somebody's going to talk about him.
I think, in my opinion, I expect him to take like that big year 3 jump like what Ja took last year.
Wasn't he your first overall pick? No, he was your second overall pick, wasn't he?
Yeah. Last week,
we took Tatum and then him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but went Luka, Tatum, Anthony Edwards. Yep.
Oh yeah.
I don't see why he can't take that, John Morant type of leap, but maybe even better. Like, I don't see any reason why he can't do that this year, man. Like, legit be a bona fide all-star, all-NBA caliber player, the best player on this team that could be one of the best in the league, in the regular season. Like, I don't see why not. I saw a tweet yesterday. I think it was Kenny's Enjoy Basketball. They said, like, a dark horse MVP pick. I was going to comment Anthony Edwards, man. I really was. I think he can take that kind of jump this year, man. I really do.
Yeah, I think he can too. I mean, we're talking about a guy who averaged 25 points per game throughout a playoff series, not to mention his first playoff series. Like,
yes.
that is some crazy talent from a guy in year 2. And like, he just looked comfortable. It looked like he was in his element. He wanted to be in the moment. He wanted to be the guy with the ball in his hands in those intense playoff moments, straight from the playing game in through game 6. And speaking to a comparison of John Morant in the third-year breakout, he has that offensive upside, not to mention the fact he also has the defensive upside that Ja lacks. And that just gives him that extra boost when you talk about MVP contention and how valuable he's going to be to this Minnesota team. He has the potential to be one of, if not the best two-way player in the league in his prime. That's how special we're talking about when we're talking about Anthony Edwards. And I wouldn't doubt that he makes that type of third-year jump. There's a reason why I have a video later this week coming out that will be titled The Next NBA Superstar, Anthony Edwards. He is special. He is a
Suddenly Minnesota made the right pick. I think a lot of people questioned that pick when he was taking number 1, but Minnesota W, a team that definitely has some notorious drafting mistakes in the past, got the right guy.
Most definitely.
But I think I'm going to take it back to the East. Would be a little East homer. I mean, we just did like, what was that, 3 Minnesota players in a row? So
Minnesota getting the love today.
I'm going to take it to the Mecca, man. And I'm going to shout out to RJ Barrett. Because over his first 3 seasons, he went from 14 to 17 to now 20. And I think over the course of that, he's just proven himself more and more that he's going to be their number 1 over Julius Randle. And so I think when they enter next season, they're going to come into the season with RJ as that number 1. Because he had some really good moments last year, and I think he started to catch people's eyes last year. But now that he'll have a whole season to be their number 1 guy and really take charge of this team, I think he will turn a lot of heads. I don't know how good the team is going to be overall, but if they're good, it'll give recognition to him because people will see them winning and they'll see him at the helm. And if they're losing, I think he'll put up a lot of big stat games and still turn heads regardless. And the fact that his points continue to grow, his efficiency's kind of stayed the same among that. I mean, his rookie efficiency and his efficiency year 3 was kind of the same. So I think a lot of it's just more opportunity as well. But that's not to say that he lacks upside. I think it's more just that he didn't get as much opportunity early on. So the fact that he's just only going to continue to take the keys of this New York team, I think he will get a lot of eyes on him this year.
Yeah, I had RJ in my honorable mentions for everything you just said. And I think people look at the efficiency a little too much. I mean, efficiency obviously is important, but you got to think he was pretty much being like the primary initiator last season because they didn't really have a point guard. Derrick Rose missed basically the whole year. Quickly's more of a two. Like he was basically, looked to do a lot. So they look at like his finishing efficiency, like his 3-point shooting went down. I think it's gonna grow with time, and especially with Jalen Brunson coming in, that allows RJ to move back to the wing, which I think we can see him thrive that way. I just hope that Julius Randle's able to buy in a little bit and kind of accept that he might be like second or third fiddle now. Because I think if that's the case, I think the Knicks can surprise a lot of people this year and be like a more competitive team than I think a lot of people are looking at them as. It just really depends on what Julius Randle does. But I do love the RJ pick, Gabe. That's a very good one.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like to the efficiency point, like you said, Jalen Brunson's going to be in now. They'll have an actual point guard. And without a point guard last year, like their offense didn't lend to anyone being efficient unless you were just a 3-point shooter that no one really cared that much about. I mean, that offense didn't have good ball movement because of that lack of point guard. You have Julius Randle, who's having the ball a lot, and Randle's not exactly, I mean, he's improved as a playmaker, but he's also isolation heavy. He can be a bit stagnant at times. It doesn't lend to an offense that has a bunch of good movement that gives you open looks that is then going to make RJ Barrett efficient. So having the combination of Brunson now in New York and Randle having less of the ball in his hands should help with that as well, because his quality of shot will just increase as time goes on.
Real quick, what do y'all think his ceiling is, RJ Barrett? Like, do you think he can be like a perennial all-star, or is he going to be more like a high-level role player, like an 18 to 20 point per game score, but not really an all-star? Like, where do you guys think he's going to end up?
I think he can be an all-star reserve, maybe like that, like 11, 12 spot, kind of like those like last couple guys after you get the starters and the backups. I think he can get like 2 or 3 if he's the number one option on a Knicks team that's playoff bound. But even if he put up, because I think he could jump to like probably 23, 24 if his progression stays the same this season. I don't know if that's going to get him in unless either the Knicks are good or he gets some of his other numbers up, like assists and rebounds and things that people look at when they do all-star voting. But I think he can make it probably 2 or 3 times in his career unless the Knicks just never start getting better, in which case then he might find himself on like another team as like a second, third option, and then he might just not get that shine.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly. I see him as like a bit better than a borderline all-star player, but not much more than that. Like he'll be in conversations, but I don't see him ever being at a point where he is a regular all-star player.
Fair. I could see him having like a little bit better of an Andrew Wiggins type career. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be. I think RJ is already overhated as it is, but I think he can be like a nice, really good two-way shot creator. I just hope that he could maybe be a little more versatile on the offensive side than Wiggins.
If he's Andrew Wiggins, if he's an all-star starter, I think that's more than a lot of people projected for him. And like second in Finals MVP. He was like second for Finals. If RJ Barrett is second for Finals MVP, all-star starter, I mean that's a W.
We know Wiggins was not an all-star starter.
He was. What did the record book say?
All loved Andrew Wiggins. He had a great playoffs.
It's not about it.
He was not a top 2 forward in the West. We'll put it that way. We'll put it that way.
Shout out to Wiggs though. Shout out to Wiggs. You know, we love Andrew Wiggins on this podcast, man. We do. So you said RJ Barrett. Where do I want to go with this? I'm gonna leave. I already know Devin's gonna have this name, so I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say his teammate though, because I'm on the record of really being a big Markelle Fultz believer, and I think this is the year he's gonna take. I think he's gonna take a nice leap this season, man. In limited action last year, he was really good. You know, I think like 11 and 5 in like 20 minutes a game, which is kind of crazy. You know, obviously per 36 is not standard, but if his per 36 was crazy, like he's crazy. Best playmaker on that team, you know, from the guard standpoint by far. Way better than Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, RJ Hampton, whoever else you want to name, way better. I think the upside is there, you know, defensively to be at least solid. And he looked a little more comfortable, like in his mid-range pull-ups last year, man. I'm a big Markelle Fultz guy. I think this is going to be the year, if he can stay healthy, that we're going to see like why he was the number 1 overall pick. I think this is the time.
If his playmaking is his best thing too, he has a lot of options to pass to now. That team has a lot of young talent. They're going to be running fast, probably a lot of fast break points, really high pace. So I mean, if he can just run the break for them and just pass it to whoever's open, I think he can really show out as a playmaker for that team, especially.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you mentioned, nail on the head. He's a great playmaker. He can attack the rim very well. He finishes at the rim very well. He just applies a lot of pressure on opposing teams' defenses. He knows how to create for himself and for others in and around the paint. And that's a pretty darn invaluable skill as a point guard. So on a team that needs that type of playmaking from their guards, because I think they have a little bit on their wings from Franz and potentially from Paolo moving forward, but they need that from their guards. Markel's the only guy who can really give that to them. I think he's definitely set for a good year next year.
I was expecting some pushback, but okay, I like it.
No,
I
got no pushback. I got no pushback.
This is a positive podcast. If all of these players could all break out next season, that's a win.
That is definitely a W. Definitely a W. I got to stick in Orlando, as I'm sure Tyrik knows where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I already know.
I got to go with Wendell Carter Jr. He is one of my favorite young centers in the league. Him by himself as part of the return for the Nikola Vucevic trade has turned out to be absolutely brilliant for Orlando. He showed, especially in the back half of last year when Orlando as a team started to play much better, he just does a little bit of everything. He can space the floor a bit. He shoots the three fairly well. He really got the opportunity to start to shoot threes last year in Orlando, and he proved that he might not be a great three-point shooter, but he's a fairly good one. And considering it was his first year in the league where he really got the opportunity to do that regularly, there's probably still room to improve there. He can finish in the paint. He's a good rebounder. He ended up being the centerpiece at the center position for what was one of the best defenses in the league over the course of a month before they really started just shutting players down and tanking last year. Wendell Carter Jr. just does a little bit of everything. He may never be amongst the conversation of the elite centers in the NBA. He's not going to be at a Jokic level or an Embiid level, but he has the potential to be a borderline all-star caliber center for the next 10 years in the league. I think Orlando have got a brilliant center there who can just do a little bit of everything for you on offense and defense. And I think he's going to really take a step into being potentially an all-star player next season.
We know you're driving the Wendell Carter fan.
Yeah.
I am the head of that fandom for sure.
No, I agree. Everything you just said, man. Like he wanted to play a little more forward last year, not full time, but he played some more power forward, and he was really good. Like he held his own, and I'm so excited to watch this team. Like this might be one of my most watched teams outside of the Celtics this year, man. I'm gonna watch a lot of Magic basketball, a lot of Pistons, but I just want to see this dynamic. I want to see Markel. I want to see if Jalen Suggs can, have a good year too. Of course, Paolo, Franz, they have a really nice young core, man, and might be a little more competitive than people are expecting. So, yeah, and Wendell Carter is a big reason to that.
They really might take the Hornets spot as that league pass team that everybody wants to watch. I think they're going to be super exciting.
Don't get me started with the Hornets, man.
Some stuff is out of their control, bro.
This is a positivity podcast. We got to leave the Hornets out of it.
No,
it's crazy because I wanted to put a couple like young Hornets players on here, but it's like they're probably not even going to get the opportunity because Steve Clifford's there. So I'm not even going to waste my time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right. So third player I got on here. I don't know how you guys are going to react to this one, but I have a very good reasoning. I think that he can be an all-star if his team is a top 3 seed and his team can be a top 3 seed. Talking about Jamal Murray.
I was thinking. Okay, go ahead.
Listen, so Jamal Murray obviously did not play last season. He's coming back. He's only going to be like 25 years old, so still not even to his prime yet. But before he got injured last season, he was playing. He had become a 40% three-point shooter, where his career average before that was probably around like 35, 36. Like 2 seasons before, he shot like 34%. So his three-point percentage went way up. He was shooting the ball really well. Field goal percentage was up on more attempts. And obviously, we know after the bubble, the last postseason he played, he was going absolutely nuclear. So even if his stats aren't crazy in the regular season, if this Nuggets team is in the playoffs, Jamal Murray is going to have a bunch of big games again. And, just continue to break out from just that. I think it's just he's in prime position to come back, and kind of like when Zach LaVine had his like kind of ACL injuries, and then he came back, was in Chicago, and then just became an all-star player. I think Jamal Murray can come back, and just Jamal Murray is just one of those guys where like just listening to him talk, just from like the mental aspect, I don't think anything can stop this dude from being great. And so I really think he's going to come back and he's going to pick up where he left off. He's catching passes from a back-to-back MVP, so he has a great playmaker next to him. And that Nuggets team, I think they can go back to being a top 3 seed where they were before he got hurt. So he really could put together an all-star campaign, I think. If he goes up to like 24 points per game on this team, I think he's in.
I thought about him for sure. I think the only thing that might hold him back is, you know, they might have him on a little bit of a limitation, like maybe sit out back-to-backs. Minutes might be down because he's somebody he will try to play through anything. You know, high usage player for sure. Like, I just don't know how much they're really going to want to push him out there early on. I do hope he can get to that level. I think that's like what everybody wanted to see before the injury. Like, man, Jamal Murray should be like 23, 24 game all-star type guard. And it's just like we never got that consistently, but there's the upside for sure. Hopefully, you know, he comes back from the injury and is just at least back to his old form. I think that's what I'm more worried about than him taking a big leap.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I think from a all-star leap standpoint, I think it's possible. I think it's probably more of a next season thing than it would be this season because you talk about that potential minutes limitation. And we were talking about a guy who, by the time he comes back, won't have played NBA basketball in about 18 months. So, like, I would expect they're probably going to ease him in slowly. He's probably going to ease himself in slowly to a standpoint. I mean, there's been multiple reports throughout the process where, as would be expected after such a significant injury, where he's had a few concerns from a mental standpoint of like explosiveness and cuts and jumping and banging your knee again. Like, that's going to be expected. And so I wouldn't be too surprised if he gets eased in relatively slowly. But by the end of this season, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing him at that 23, 24 point per game range. And then next year is when we potentially see that all-star jump, assuming Denver are once again at the top of the West.
Yeah, that's what kind of the thing with him too is like if he does ease in and he's not an all-star, we already know him having that reputation as a playoff player that elevates his game. So if he comes out and he averages like 24, 25 after all-star break and then has another crazy playoff run, I still consider that a breakout season, even though it was really only the second half, just because of the way it would be with sort of the injury situation. I would call that a success.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like Gabe is always the one with the bold picks. Last week he had the Chet early on. Today Murray. I feel like every other time we've done like lists and stuff, Gabe has a very bold pick. So
it has to be somebody.
That just might be your tag from now on. Shout out Jamal though. Hopefully he's back and the Nuggets are great. I'm gonna stay in Denver. So this is a nice transitional player right there. I'm gonna go with his backup, Bones Highland. Obviously the Monte Morris trade opens up a lot more opportunity, and I think they traded Monte Morris away because they're like, we trust Bones. He showed in moments last season like he can be big time. Sometimes it was like their second best offensive player, you know, for stretches in the season. So I'm excited. I think he can come one of the best names in basketball, first off, but his game is so fluent. Him and Emmanuel Quickly are so similar, but I think Bones is primed to take a nice step. Maybe a dark horse 6 man of the year candidate. Who knows? Potentially be that guy, man. Shout out to Bones.
Yeah, definitely. He had a great rookie season. He, like you mentioned, he's going to have a bigger role this year. He's going to be able to fully step into that backup point guard role, and I don't see any reason why he can't prove to be over the next year or two, why he can't be one of the best backup point guards in the league behind Jamal Murray.
Yeah, and I saw a backup guard with like tight handles. I mean, that's just not even from just the stats and like effectiveness perspective, but like when you think of like breakout and like guys who really catch the public eye and who the fans really get behind, I think Bones Highland is going to be a very exciting player to watch along with his actual improvement. So I think he'll catch a lot of eyes this season.
It's crazy because last year everybody was saying the most obvious breakout candidate was going to be Michael Porter Jr. And now we're back in Denver where we're talking about two of his teammates.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy how times have changed there. I'm going to stay in Denver to someone that no one really talks about, but while we're on the topic, I got to talk about him.
3 Minnesota and 3 Denver.
3 Denver.
I think I know where you're going. I think I do.
Probably. probably. We're going with backup big Zeke Nadji
Yes.
because Denver don't have a backup center, and so Zeke Nadji is going to have to be the guy. If DeAndre Jordan gets the minutes, well, then Zeke Nadji is not going to play, and I'm going to be very sad. But Zeke Nadji is the most obvious choice right now to be the backup center, even though he is ideally a power forward. He plays with great energy. He competes well. He's a very good rebounder. He is an absurdly good three-point shooter as well. Like, given it is inconsistent minutes, he wasn't regularly in the rotation last year, but on 2 attempts per game, this guy shot 46% from deep. He stretches the floor well. He can space for you. He can finish a bit inside. He's just a nice backup big who can come in and give you 15 minutes a night, can space the floor a bit, can rebound well. He just does all the little things that you want. And I think he becomes a regular rotational piece next year who becomes someone that more people start to recognize as a legit, very valuable role player in the NBA.
Let me because you said the inconsistent minutes might skew his numbers. I think that makes it a little more impressive that you're not getting consistent minutes and you're still shooting a high percentage from three as a big.
Yeah.
Like, I think that makes it even more impressive. Like, if DeAndre Jordan gets those minutes, man, he must have dirt on every organization that he's playing for. Because he should not be playing any minutes in basketball. Maybe he's just a great locker room guy. That's why he keeps getting jobs. That's fine. But to give him those minutes would just be absurd, man. I don't want to see that.
He's in the right locker room as well. It's like, I mean, we all know who the two top centers are. So it's like, if you're a center who really wants to carve out a role for yourself, being in the locker room in either Philadelphia or Denver is where you want to be because you're learning from the best they've got. So he's in really prime position to do something good.
They did open the door. They didn't bring Boogie back. They traded away Michael Green. They're like, they must believe in him. I hope they do. I really do because nobody really talks about him because he didn't get a lot of burn, but he's been very good, like you mentioned, Devin, in the minutes that he's gotten.
Which, yeah, I mean, obviously Jokic is going to get most of the 5 minutes because just obviously, but I think since they can both shoot, it's like it opens room for one of them to play the 4, and then he can really carve out a role for himself. So hopefully it goes well. Is it back to me?
That would be back to you.
Do you have another Denver player?
No, I do not have another Denver player. I'm going to move on to a team that I actually expect to be the worst team in the league this season, or second worst. And I'm moving over to Indiana, man. Close to home. I'm going to talk about Tyrese. I feel like we're all at least decent-sized Tyrese fans on this podcast. But, I mean, I don't really know how much even needs to be said. It's like he was kind of already on the verge of breaking out. But it's like, I think just sort of like with players we talked about earlier, it'll just kind of be a full season to really cement it. Because he went to Indiana last year, and he averaged almost like an 18-point double-double, which once you average like a double-double, or, I mean, nobody averages the triple-double except Westbrook. But you average like a double-double with either assist or rebounds or whatever, you have that like nice little 10 and another stat, people are going to notice. And even if you're just up there, casual fans, they're going to be looking on like the NBA Instagram page or whatever, and they're going to see league leaders. Tyrese, if he maintains that like 9.6 he was averaging last season at Indiana, I mean, he's going to be on those lists. And then even casual fans, are going to be like, oh, who's this guy that's hooping in Indiana? And then they might become fans of him. He's going to get a lot of exposure. He's going to be probably the most exciting player to watch on their team. He has a nice little backcourt mate with him and Ben Mathurin. It's like, I think he's going to have a big stat year. I don't think the team is going to be good, but like he is really going to carve himself out as Indiana's building block going forward, which he should have already been doing in SAC. But we know that he was a franchise piece before, and now he's cementing himself as a franchise piece for this organization, and his production is really only going to continue to go up.
Yeah, I'm going to a Pacer game this year. I got to see Tyrese play in person. Yeah, I had him on my list too. I had like my number one slot was Anthony Edwards / Tyrese because I think both of those guys can take all-star type jumps. Like, though, I hope Tyrese is a little more selfish. I hope he shoots the ball a little more because there's no I think he could be 20 and 10, like pretty easily, pretty efficiently. I think that's possible.
He was 17.5 and 9.6 last season. So even if I think the 10 is almost easier to attain for him than the 20.
Yeah,
I think he'll lead. I think he'll lead the league in assists. I think he'll lead the league in assists.
He'll be up
Yeah,
there.
he very well might, as long as CP3 isn't just trying to farm stats again, which he probably
That's what I
will be,
mean.
but
When I think of breakout, it's like production is one thing, but like I said, like being on those like league leader lists or like the casual fans see. When I think of like breaking out, it's like you're now in the public eye. People know who you are. If he leads the league in assists, like somebody's uncle at the barbershop is gonna know who Tyrese Halliburton is.
Ain't wrong. But yeah, I mean, speaking of more shots, I mean, he's going to be an Indiana team which currently is devoid of options and still might be trading away Miles Turner, still might be trading away Buddy Hield. Like, he's going to have a ton of opportunity to create his own offense there. In turn, he's going to have a lot of the defensive attention, but there's no reason why he shouldn't be, at the very least, taking like 15, 16 shots a game. That should be going up at least a few shots.
Like, it's him, Chris Duarte, who I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Matherin, Jalen Smith, and Isaiah Jackson once he's back from injury, which I believe will be near the start of the season.
Man, he should take all the shots.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only true shot creator there. Everyone else is waiting for Tyrese to create the offense for them, so everything should be running through him.
Legit. Did you have him on your list too, Devin?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, universal pick. I like it.
He was the obvious one. There's one guy that I'm surprised none of you guys have said yet, because I definitely thought Devin would have said him like right away.
We getting there.
We're getting there. Okay.
Probably. I got a couple San Antonio guys. Do y'all have any Spurs players?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say one then. Josh Primo. Didn't really get a lot of consistent opportunity last year, but I think this year they're gonna be bad. A lot of shots are gonna be available from the backcourt. I think Josh Primo, they drafted him that high because they like him, and I think he's going to get a lot more chance this season to show his offensive bag. I think he has a really nice offensive game, and I think we're going to see his growth in year two. It seems like Spurs players, year one's always a little shaky, but then year two, they start to put it together a little bit. I think he's going to be very solid this season.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, he was just really lacking opportunity in year one, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing when, like you mentioned, San Antonio guys do tend to not get as much opportunity year one. Kelton Johnson's a prime example of that, and the steps he's taken in year two and year three. And Primo was also like the youngest, if not one of the youngest players in the draft. Was looked at as one of the biggest project players in the draft. So the development was always going to take a bit of time for him from a basketball standpoint, from just a physical build standpoint. Was going to have to put on a bit more strength and get used to the NBA game. And I agree. I think with more opportunity, with more of a role entering year two, at still only 19, entering a second year, I think there's no reason why he can't continue to improve.
That's insane. Yeah. I thought Gabe was frozen. Yeah, Primo.
Oh, no.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's really just a land of opportunity. It's just like somebody's going to step up and somebody's going to do it. And he's so young that he can really develop in that system with that much minutes to have and that many shots that are open.
Yeah, they always have a guy or two as well. Like last year, Keldon took a big leap, and then DeJounte obviously became an all-star. We seen Jakob Poeltl go there and really improve his game. Like somebody's got to step up this year. It might be Primo, it might be one of his teammates who I'm going to talk about soon. It's got to be somebody.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be the theme of the Spurs for the last couple of years now. Is there's just going to be someone who's going to take that step for sure.
Yes,
for sure. I got to move on to my biggest pick for the season. The guy I'm banking on the most. Got to talk about De'Aaron Fox.
That was the one I was waiting on.
I knew you were waiting for it, so it's like, we got to go for it. De'Aaron Fox. He obviously didn't have as good of a season last year as many people anticipated. After a very good year 4, got his big contract, didn't quite live up to expectations. But there was also very positive signs, and I also think this team has been built around him a lot better. Just for context, last year his numbers on the year were 23.2 points per game, where he shot under 30% from deep, and he shot at 47% from the field. Now, it is worth noting that in games with Sabonis, he put up nearly 28 points per game at 6.2 assists compared to his 5.6 on the year. He shot 33% from deep and shot over 50% from the field. And specifically in games without Tyrese Halliburton last year, which was 20 games, so not a significant sample size, but not insignificant, he shot 39.7% from three, over 28 points per game, and 6.6 assists on the night, and over 50% from the field. With Sabonis and without Tyrese Halliburton, the game just completely changes for Fox. He now has the best roll man he's ever had, and Fox loves to operate in the pick and roll, whether that be for his own shot, whether that be for setting up the rest of the offense. He runs in the pick and roll so much. That's just how this Kings offense operates. Not to mention the fact now that De'Aaron Fox last year was in one of the worst spacing teams in the league. They were in like the bottom 10th percentile in spacing, and now they've added Kevin Huerter. They've added Malik Monk. They've added Keegan Murray. He has shooters around him now. So his assist numbers are going to go up. And the spacing of this offense is going to allow De'Aaron Fox to have that much more offense, whether it be from his very good mid-range pull-up, whether it be from attacking the rim. Everything just fits much better for De'Aaron Fox to absolutely emerge as that all-star NBA caliber player this season. Whether he makes an all-star team or not just remains to be seen, depending on how many guys stay healthy, and in which case we know how hard it is to make the all-star team as a guard in the West. But I think he should be in the conversation, and I think this is the year that De'Aaron Fox finally reaches that all-star caliber level.
If you were a betting man, would you bet that he would be an all-star?
Because he's in Sacramento, no. Because unfortunately, Sacramento just doesn't get the media love, and that matters too much.
If the Kings have a top 8 seed by All-Star break, he should be an All-Star.
Yeah,
the Kings and not the bottom 5, he should be an All-Star.
100%.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, like it was just a random thought when I was thinking of like if I miss any players. I was thinking about the Kings, and I'm like, why can't they be the one team that just surprises everybody? Like it happens pretty much every single year. Why can't the Kings be that team this year? And like you said, they did everything right in the offseason. Like they got Kevin Huerter, they got Malik Monk. Keegan Murray seems like the right pick. You know, they're able to keep like Harrison Barnes on the team. Like they did everything right in the offseason to try and build a competitive team, got a new coach in there. Mike Brown, will see how that goes. I don't see why they can't be the team that makes that surprise jump this season. Somebody has to do it. It might be them.
Yeah, the only thing that holds me back on the team as a whole making a surprise jump is their defense is really concerning. Their offense is going to be really fun. I mean, you're talking about Fox is always fun alongside a couple of good shooters and Huerter and Monk off the bench. You got Keegan Murray. Sabonis is going to be there now. But their defense is bad. Like, it's just bad. I mean, outside of Harrison Barnes, unless maybe Keegan Murray surprises, maybe not even surprises, but just is better than the general NBA rookie and is an above-average defender. But outside of Harrison Barnes, you look up and down that roster as your top 6 players, it's a lot of under-average to bad defenders. So that's the biggest concern. It's hard to have consistent success banking on offense because you're going to have off nights on offense. That's just the nature of how things go. But that offense is going to be fun. But that lack of defense might be the one thing that hinders them from really making that big leap.
But we saw last season the Pelicans were not a very good defensive team. But that offense was so good that they were able to get hot at the right time and make the play-in and then ultimately the playoffs. So it's possible.
That's true, but they have a better defense than this Kings team.
I
don't want to discredit them too much. They got Herb, who's out there locking guys up. Brandon Ingram, when it mattered, played quite good defense as well.
That's also true.
I don't want to discredit them too much.
Similar levels, though, not like top 15 defenses, like bottom 15, bottom 10 maybe. Yeah,
for sure.
Is it on Gabe?
It is on me. So, talking about some guards in the West, I'm taking it to Portland, man. Give me Anthony Simons as my next pick to finally complete his breakout. He showed all the flashes. He has all the tools. My main thing that I've always said about him is that, yes, he put up big stats while Dame was out last year. And yes, you could say, okay, this team was starting a bunch of players that like nobody had ever even heard of. So you could say, oh, it was empty stats. The team wasn't very good, this and that. However, his efficiency was pretty good while he was doing that. And that's really been my thing the whole time, is that he was playing with a bunch of players that people had never heard of, and he was putting up efficient numbers. So, like, the defense was keyed in on him, and he was still giving them whatever he wanted to. There's no more CJ, so he's officially this team's second option, I'd say. So he's going to have a lot of minutes. He's going to be next to Dame, which takes some defensive pressure off of him. So he could probably get even more efficient than he already was. And I think his point total, he could be a 20-point scorer for this team. I think really the biggest thing with him is, like, I know he can score the ball. I've seen enough of it to where I know he can do that. It's just seeing his other numbers continue to grow. But his assists went all the way up from like 1.5 to 4 last year, and his turnovers weren't bad. He only averaged 2 turnovers with as many touches as he got. So once again, while it's not the exact same as like percentages efficiency, his turnovers, I would call that efficient playmaking, all things considered. I mean, that's like a 2-to-1 assist to turnover, which isn't the end all be all, of course. But across the board, I think with less defensive pressure and him just continuing to progress, because it was only year 4 for him, he's only 22 years old, I think he'll have a really good season.
Good pick. I think Portland's one of the most intriguing teams to me. Like, I really want to see how they operate. I want to see how Ant Simons plays with Dame, because he's going to be off the ball a lot more. That's my only question. I want to see. I think he can. I just want to see it. Like, I just want to visibly see it and, see how that goes.
I mean, he's been a 40% three-point shooter for 2 seasons in a row, including in 2021 where he didn't have the ball a ton. So it's like a season where they had Dame and CJ, and he was kind of just an off-the-ball guy. And that was still on 4.4 threes a game. He was shooting about 40%. So I think even if he's off the ball, like, he can space the floor and be an option for Dame to pass to when he doesn't have it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Anthony Simons, when you talk about concerns with fitting alongside Dame, if he was someone who'd always been a primary creator, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But he only had like that 35 game stretch last year in his career where he's regularly been like the on-ball creator. Other than that, he's had to work off the ball to find opportunities. So he has been in that role. Obviously, he'll be in a more significant role now, but in that type of situation where he is off the ball. And he's one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the league. He shot nearly 48% on catch and shoot threes last year, in the top 5% in the league. Not to mention the fact that he's obviously still going to have the opportunity to create and make his own shots as well. But I think because he's been in that role before, he's played in the backcourt alongside Dame before, obviously in lesser minutes, but he's had that role already. Now he's just going to have to find that fit with Dame where they can both get their own buckets. But as you mentioned, Gabe, like, he's going to have less defensive attention now, which is just going to help increase his efficiency. I think he's set for a really good year this year in Portland.
And when Dame is on the bench, there's a good chance that he's playing minutes next to Gary Payton. And I think that could be some really fun minutes to watch with him.
I want to see what their lineup, like, what their best 5 is going to be, because they got, obviously the backcourt, we're going to look at that from day one. Like, defensively, y'all might be cooked, but they do got Gary Payton in there. They do got Josh Hart, who's a pretty good defender. Jeremy Grant's a solid defender too. Like, they got some versatile guys defensively. I'm just interested to see, like, when it's on the line, who's the 5 that's going to be out there to try and win this game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they end up running anything with Jeremy Grant / Gary Payton at the 5.
Yes, I was just thinking that too.
If you got one of those two with Hart, Anthony, and Dame, that might end up being the 5-man lineup, depending on the matchup. Because that's the one biggest concern I have with this team, is because of those poor defensive guards. If you had a better rim protecting center, I'd feel a lot better. But with Jusuf Nurkic back there, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more of a concern, because even though you have good wing defense, the opposing team's guards are still going to get so much perimeter, or still going to get so much dribble penetration. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up managing those rotations for sure.
Definitely. That's a good pick though, Gabe.
That's a good pick.
That's one of my guys, man. He was so entertaining last season when he played.
Love it. He cooked. I remember, I think it was in December, like, he cooked us, like the Celtics. That was when we just kept blowing leads. He had like him and CJ had a crazy fourth quarter and just like beat us by like 20 points, man. This is an interesting one. Gabe kind of mentioned like earlier, like, there's guys that are going to take some type of leap, and then there's the all-star leaps. This is somebody I think is just going to become like a very key, integral, rotational player for this team that lost a big rotational player this offseason. And I didn't think of this. I got to give a shout out to my guy Smoke Souls NBA because when he came on the channel, he mentioned this guy of taking over the PJ Tucker role. Caleb Martin can be that. I think he can. I think he can take over that PJ Tucker role. Not be PJ Tucker because there's only really one PJ Tucker in the league. But I think he can take over that role. They paid him in the offseason. He showed really good flashes last season, especially when guys were missing time. He would come out and have some big games. I think he had a 30-point game, one instance. He was dunking on people. He's shooting a three-point shot pretty well on limited attempts, but he's shooting it solidly. I think he can – Miami always has somebody that comes out of nowhere and they're like, damn, he's all of a sudden a really good rotational piece. I think he can continue to take what he did last year and grow on that and become like that starting, 3-4 guy, which the Miami Heat are going to need this year.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him money for a reason. They obviously believe in him. And like you said, Miami just have a way of having these guys just take steps out of nowhere, whether it be a Duncan Robinson, whether it be a Max Strus, whether it be a Gabe Minson. Kayla Martin very well may be that guy on that list. They need someone to step up in that role, and he was very good last year, so I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him make that jump.
Kayla Martin, that's a surprise pick. It almost reminds me of like how like the Martin twins were just kind of like the Martin twins when they were in Charlotte together. I think Caleb's really broken out for himself and kind of made a name for himself as an individual more. And it kind of reminds me of like the Morris twins were just the Morris twins. And then once they separated and left like Phoenix, like Marcus really started to separate himself as like, oh, he's got it like that.
It's crazy because there was a time where when Markieff was in Washington, I think he was better. Like he was killing in Washington. And then I think he got hurt, and then maybe Marcus started to become a lot better. It's funny. It'd be weird to have a twin like in the NBA at the same time. That would, I feel like that would just make it so much more competitive. Like I got to be better than my brother.
Yeah, Marcus was cool in like Detroit. I think he was in Detroit, and like New York is when Marcus really started kicking it up. But then obviously in LA, he was nice.
He was damn near an all-star in New York.
Yeah, he was one of their best players because they didn't have nobody at that time.
Did they have Julius Randle that year? Or was that before Julius got there?
I don't know because they played the same position.
But I remember Julius Randle's first year was so underwhelming because like he had that big second half of the season in New Orleans, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's about to go to New York and be an all-star," and he was like,
"Yeah, when he was getting all them triple doubles."
Yes.
Marcus Morris, he was in New York in 2019-20. Yeah, I think
they had that first year together.
Randle was there. That was his only year in New York. He only spent half a season in New York, and then he went right to LA.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there for long, but he averaged 19 when he was there. Then he got traded to LA and only averaged 10 the rest of that season. It's like that New York is really when he like got nice. He was nice in Boston. I forgot that Boston phase even happened. He was in Boston after Detroit, averaging like 14.
Yeah, that's when we had way too many people who deserve minutes, man. We had
that was
10 really good players.
Yeah.
Man, dark times.
Second round out with that roster, man. What happened there?
Eric Bledsoe. I seen Devin made a tweet about Eric Bledsoe earlier, and I was gonna say something. But I'm like, damn, Eric Bledsoe kind of like owned us that series. Like he clamped Kyrie up like the last 3 or 4 games.
All because he said, I don't want to be here on Twitter talking about, what did he say? He was like, I was out somewhere with my girl.
He said he's at like the salon or something with his girl.
Yes. All-time tweet.
Shout out Drew Bledsoe. No, I'm just playing.
Drew Bledsoe. Patriots legend, bro.
I was actually a really not big Eric Bledsoe guy, but I liked Eric Bledsoe a lot when he was like still good.
Didn't they call him Baby LeBron?
Yeah, when he was in yeah, because he would do like LeBron like stuff at like 6 foot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I used to like him back in the day too. Like myself a good defensive point guard, but
exactly.
I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a place in the league for him somewhere still, but
you would think like some team might need a veteran backup. I think he could still be okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
For the vet minimum, he could be all right.
Yeah, I heard the Lakers need a point guard.
All right, next player.
It's on Devin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is on me. I'm going to go with someone who I think is taking a leap to the starting lineup and in turn has a bold take attached to it. I think Anieka Okongwu by the end of the year is the Hawks starting center, and Capella's out of town. I'm not far off the case of Okongwu is just already better than Capella. He offers more upside offensively. I think he has the potential to be much more than just a pick and roll finisher. Defensively, he has much more versatility as far as I'm concerned. His footwork is better. His movement is better. He can switch out on the perimeter better. He just has all of the tools to be what you want in a modern day big. He doesn't quite have the height that you ideally want, but he doesn't play small. He's strong. That isn't necessarily much of a concern, but he can protect the rim. He can rebound. He can finish your lob plays. He can do what Capella does, but I think he has that upside to potentially develop a mid-range shot, start to have a few more post moves, and have that a little bit more versatility and movement on the defensive end. I don't see a situation in how he isn't the starting center sometime soon. He just has that level of talent. So I would think that by the time this trade deadline comes around, this time next year in February or March, that Okongwu is the starting center for Atlanta as he starts his breakout season and Capella ends up going elsewhere.
Such a good. I had him in my honorable mentions only because I knew you would mention him, so I knew we would talk about him.
Devin drafted him last week too. That's how high he was on.
Exactly. I totally forgot about him, but yeah, I think now at the center position, if you're like 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", I think it doesn't really, like Robert Williams kind of showed last year, you can still be such a really good rim protector even being undersized, so I don't think that's going to affect him too much. And it's just like Clint Capella just looks kind of old. I don't even think he's really that old right now, but he just looks old.
Yeah, no, he definitely does. He went from being a guy who was being pushed to be a borderline all-star player in the 2020-21 season to last year just being like, yeah, you're still fine, but he just didn't look anywhere near as good.
Like a team could use him. Like hell, Portland, he would probably be better for him Portland than Nurkic. But like when you have a young guy like Okongwu who just needs to be unleashed, you kind of got to do it. Like you just got to make room for him. You got to trade out the older guy to let him shine. So hopefully they do, trade away Capella or at least just open up the minutes for Okongwu in general, because when he's been on the court, man, he's shown so much promise. I don't know if in college he was shooting the three or maybe in pre-draft, like he was showing people he could shoot the 3-point shot. But like you said, he has like the tools to potentially be a solid, at least mid-range shooter, which is, always a valuable asset for a big guy to have. That's primarily a defensive rim protection type guy. I think it could open up a lot for Atlanta. Like I think that could be a move that makes them better. So that's such a great pick, somebody that a lot of people don't think about, when it comes to young guys from that draft class.
I mean, playing the center position with two playmakers that good on your team, it's like you're going to find a lot of easy touches. He's going to have a lot of easy baskets. So no matter what he does, all he has to do is be in the right position, just have the right off-ball footwork, and you're right there. I mean, he could average light 15.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. I guess moving on to my next player. He's already really good, but I think he can be like a borderline all-star in all-star contention this season. As a wing, so he might get some forward love. I think that's a little bit easier to get in the West than with guards. Talking about Desmond Bane. Mainly plays the shooting guard, but if he was able to make it as a forward, which, sometimes we saw with the DeMar DeRozan and other players last year that sometimes the qualifications get strange. But regardless, Desmond Bain was the best player on the Grizzlies in a lot of games last year. Last year when Ja Morant was missing all those games, and it was like the Grizzlies are like 20-2 when Ja Morant doesn't play. The best player on that team was Desmond Bain, in my opinion. There's arguments for like a Jaren or other players, but I do think that Desmond Bain was that team's number 2. And they were a 2 seed, a very young 2 seed. And obviously they met their match in the Golden State Warriors in the second round. Had a really entertaining series with Minnesota. But I think in the regular season, he averaged 18 points last year. I think he can go up to like 22, 23, have a nice little jump, get one level higher. I think by the time next playoffs come around, I think he'll be a little bit more experienced and he'll be able to show out a little bit more there. And so I think even if his regular season numbers do jump, I feel like next year when the playoff time rolls around, I just have a feeling that he's going to prove himself even more, because I think he has real takeover ability, the star level takeover ability even. if he gets in control of a game, I really think he can be a really big needle mover for any team, and he's going to be nice for the Grizzlies. He's been an Iron Man as well. It's like if Ja continues to be in and out of the lineup like he's been, obviously Ja's still going to be their superstar number one. But rookie season, he played 68 games when there was only 72, and last year he played 76. And it's like nowadays, health is everything when it comes to winning championships, all-star selections, all-NBA. He just has all the attributes you want out of a young star, and he's only going into year 3.
I did a 2K rebuild with the Jazz, and I traded Donovan Mitchell away for a package that was for Desmond Bane, and Desmond Bane started averaging like 28 points a game. If he was the go-to guy, so maybe. But that's a good pick because I kind of forgot this too. Jaren Jackson's going to miss a decent amount of time, like a lot of time, with that injury. So there's room. There's going to be more shots offensively, and Desmond Bane's probably going to be asked to step up. So that's a good pick.
Yeah, I think the interesting dynamic for me is how the shots start getting split between Ja, Bane, and Dillon Brooks, because there's a lot of times where Dillon Brooks just likes to be ball dominant and then starts taking these pull-up mid-range shots that he probably shouldn't be taking. But if we can get to a point where Dillon Brooks just becomes more of the defensive guy and Desmond Bane starts to take over some of those shots that he hits much more efficiently, then I think we can get to a point where Desmond Bane currently is where a lot of us thought his peak was at, and now he might have that potential to be like a legit number 2 offensive piece on a title contending team. And I think, as you say, with Jaren Jackson Jr. being out of the lineup to start next year, there's going to be minutes available. I think he can, over the next year and 2, really start to step into that role and show that they don't need to make this big splash to add alongside Ja. They already have the pieces there.
If you told me that Desmond Bane was Chris Middleton in 2 years, I would believe you. Would just say that.
Yeah, it's exactly who I was thinking of when you started talking about him.
They call him the flyby king. That's such a good pick. I'm gonna stay in Memphis, and I'm gonna go to his teammate. And you mentioned Dillon Brooks. I hope they trade Dillon Brooks someday. Not that he's a bad player, but I want to see Zaire Williams get a lot more opportunity. I want to see that. That's my guy, Zaire Williams. Shows so much confidence as a rookie, and Memphis just knows how to develop guys, and they always have a rookie to sophomore player or sophomore to third-year guy take a nice leap. I think Zaire Williams is going to be that. Even if he's coming off the bench, I think he will be one of the more impactful bench players in the Western Conference, man. He showed in the playoffs so much confidence as a rookie. So much confidence. Was playing big moments for them, hitting big shots, making big defensive plays. And I think he's going to carry that momentum in the year 2, which is kind of crazy to say, like only going into year 2. And I think he's a little bit ahead of schedule even than what a lot of people thought when they drafted him.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think he is ahead of schedule. Well, it's going to be tough to see where he gets that opportunity because, like you say, Dillon Brooks is ahead of him. There is a lot of depth in there. And I don't know how willing they'll ever be to get rid of Dillon Brooks just because of how important he is to that team and that culture. Multiple members of that team and organization have mentioned it time and time again, but I think Zaire Williams does have that potential to just be a really solid 2-way player. His 3-point shooting continued to improve over the course of the season. He has really good upside on the defensive end. He just looks like that type of wing that does everything you want to do as a nice complementary piece alongside your John, your Desmond Bain, and your Jaren Jackson Jr. I think with those, again, a bit more opportunities you're going to see at the start of the year with Jaren Jackson Jr. out of the lineup, he has that chance to showcase a little bit more his continued development.
That team just has so much depth, man. It's just like for them being so young, and it's just there's so many of them that they're all trying to get paid. And I think with that being said, it's like they all have passion for the game. Like you saw the way that team played and stuck together, but like they're kind of almost competing against each other for like who's going to take these minutes, who's going to carve out these secured roles, who's going to be the building blocks of this team going forward. And I think just with all the Memphis players, it's just going to drive them to be the best versions of themselves. A winning culture that they're building early, already second round appearance last year and what was most of their like second, third seasons. This team, it's just a bright future for almost all of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something to be said for strength and depth from just being able to put out a good bench and the fact that you then have guys that know they have to compete every night or there's someone looking to take their spot right behind them. So there's something to be said for that. I mean, you talk about guys having to get paid. Like You have Dylan Brooks, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. You have Steven Adams, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. Now, neither of those guys might return, but those are things you have to consider. Killian Tilly's going to need a new contract. Most notably, Brandon Clark's going to need a new contract. If he continues to play like he did in the playoffs, he's going to deserve a really good payday. So that's part of their thing they're going to have to figure out moving forward. But I think Zaire Williams is definitely going to be an important part of that.
And they just drafted and signed, I think, 4 or 5 rookies. Like, they had a big draft class.
Yeah.
So.
They've been bringing in so many guys every year.
They even re-signed John Conchar to a little nice extension.
Yeah.
Like, they got a lot of bodies, man. A lot of bodies, but
they're at the perfect spot, development and winning at the same time.
Very few teams can get that nice balance. You know, we want to see some other teams like Detroit and Orlando get that, but it's hard. It's hard to do that. Like, to be a 50-plus win team while also having so many young guys that are getting better each day. They're in basketball heaven, man. It's crazy.
I got to go with a nice little young role player. Another wing from last year's class, although I suppose he's listed as a shooting guard, but I consider him more of a wing. Josh Christopher. I like his game. It's simple. It's nothing flashy. He's not someone that is some household name by any stretch, but he just competes. He attacks. He is fearless on the court. He attacks the rim hard. He is a very good driver. He finishes well at the rim. He competes on the defensive end. He's just going to be one of those guys that is a nice complementary piece to have moving forward in Houston. He's going to compete on the defensive end. He's going to get your rebounds. He's going to give you that good defense, whether it be at the 2 or the 3 that you need, whether that be in the starting lineup or the bench moving forward. If he can continue to improve his 3-point shot, which I think he has the upside to do over the next few years, and continue to improve on his ability to get to the rim, he's just a nice slashing 2-way guy to have off of your bench moving forward. And I think he's going to take another step again next season.
Such a good pick.
8 points. 8 points in like 18 minutes as a virtually unknown rookie coming in. I mean, that's really impressive rookie season. I think, especially on that team, he'll have room to grow and really room to show out. Especially with them drafting Jabari, it's like he was already playing with Jalen Green last year, so it's like the player they brought in high is not going to be super ball dominant, I don't think, compared to like other players they could have brought in. So I really think that puts him in a better situation, and almost every player on that team in a better position to succeed and really show out.
I don't know if y'all were familiar with him in high school, but he was like a, highly touted guy, like social media star in high school. I watched him his first game in college, and I'm like, I don't see what the hype is about. He's not that good. And his entire freshman season, I'm like, man, this dude's not. I don't think he's anything for real. I was surprised he got drafted first round, but then when I watched him early on in the season, he was nice. I'm like, okay, he's pretty decent. And then I saw him in summer league. I'm like, man, he shouldn't even be out there. Josh Christopher should not be playing in summer league. He was too good for summer league this year. That's such a great pick, man. I think Houston has a couple guys. Like, I don't know if anybody has Sengun on their list, but I think he can take a nice little jump.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, they got a lot of bodies, a lot of young players, like a ton. But Josh Christopher, he's an intriguing name for sure. I want to see what his like. If he stays with this core, I want to see what like his long-term projection is. Is he going to be like a elite 6-man type guy? Is he going to be starting next to Jalen Green and whoever else is in the lineup? I don't know. It's interesting, but they got a decent little problem to have. A lot of good young talent.
All right, boys. I'm taking it back to Indiana. Let's talk about Jalen Smith. Let's talk about Jalen Smith, man. Drafted to Phoenix and got virtually no opportunity. Barely could get minutes because they had a lot of good players in that team. They had Ayton, they had JaVale. That spot was pretty much taken. There wasn't really much he could do. Second season comes around, he's playing 13 minutes for like half the season, doing okay. Still only getting like 6 points per game, not really showing much. And we're just like, hey, this guy got drafted in the lottery, but he hasn't really done anything at all. Like, who is this dude? What can he do? Gets traded to Indiana. Instantly, 13.4 points per game. Instantly up to 25 minutes. Attempts almost double. 37% 3-point shooter, 53% from the field. He's efficient. He has tools, man. He has the tools. He's in a prime place of development. He just got traded to a fresh, new opportunity, new location. I think he's probably in a great mindset right now since he actually has a position to where he can show what he can do and sort of further his career. finally get himself paid. If he was sitting in Phoenix, I mean, he might have been scared. Okay, I'm not going to get to do anything for a couple of years. And then I might get like a qualifying offer or a minimum deal somewhere. But it's like now 13 points in 22 game sample size, not the biggest sample size, but also not the smallest. And only 25 minutes. Say that role continues to grow. If Miles Turner's out the door in Indiana, his role is only going to continue to grow. He gets more minutes, and he can really show out and be something. I think he has almost a prime position to break out.
Yeah, he was. I think, in my opinion, when I watched him, when he was getting more opportunity last year in Phoenix, when I think Ayton had COVID, I think JaVale might have been out. He was decent. Like, he was pretty solid. Like, he just wasn't hitting the 3-point shot like everybody expected, but he was blocking shots. He was finishing on the inside. Like, he was pretty solid for Phoenix last year. And hopefully Miles Turner does eventually get moved, because then that will give him the chance to just run 5 full time and be that guy for them, which I think he still has really good upside. He's still super young. And then playing with Tyrese, he's going to get spoon fed pretty frequently.
Which, yeah, he was playing with like Chris Paul before, but I think Phoenix's entire system and just the way they played, I don't really know if it was the most acclimated to having a stretch 5, if that makes sense. Because like they were running like your JaVales and your Aytons, like him coming in with kind of a different play style. I just don't know if it fitted. Just thinking of like CP3 historically, the centers that he always speaks like spoon feeds and gets good, like DeAndre Jordan, Clint Capella, like those are more inside centers. Those aren't usually stretch guys. So I think while he did have a good playmaker before, maybe now it's more suited to his strengths.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think he's in a good position to really show himself as a quality average to above average starter moving forward, whether that be a power forward or center. Him and Isaiah Jackson are going to have to figure out their fit moving forward. But I think those two in combination are going to be a really good pairing for the Pacers moving forward. I would expect Turner gets moved at the very least before the trade deadline. Like, he's on an expiring contract, so there's no reason for them to keep him on the team after the trade deadline. But so I would imagine he gets those minutes. I would imagine he gets those opportunities. And yeah, as you mentioned, a great year last year in Indiana after the trade deadline. I think he's shown that he's going to be a very solid player. The organization has vocally and with money this offseason committed that he's going to be a valuable part of their starting lineup next year. And I got no doubts that is going to be continuing to be the case moving forward.
Damn, I'm running out of players. I thought I had too many. I'm running out of players. I'm gonna go down to Nola. I had a couple guys in mind, but I think Trey Murphy's gonna be an important piece already in year 2. And maybe not like he's gonna take this big leap, like his stats are just gonna jump off the charts, but I think he's gonna get a real deal opportunity because they need shooting, and he's probably their best catch and shoot guy on the roster. So they need him to be knockdown shooter. He showed a lot of promise. We saw in the playing game, he had that 4th quarter spurt where it seemed like he had like 10 threes in the 4th quarter. Like, he just went crazy. They're gonna need that because you got Zion coming back, Brandon Ingram. You got a lot of ball dominant guys. You need guys to space the floor. I hope like Herb Jones can improve as a shooter this season as well. But I think Trey Murphy's gonna have a solid role for the Pelicans going forward. Almost at the Hornets, but Pelicans.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when he was drafted, it seemed as though he was going to be this NBA ready guy that was going to come in and make the impact right away. And he just didn't really get the opportunity, but yet he did in the playoffs, which was kind of interesting. But he showed in the playoffs that he can defend well, he can shoot the 3, and he can space the floor. And that's what he's here to do. And those types of players are very valuable in today's NBA. And like you mentioned, you're going to have a lot of ball dominant players in New Orleans. I think that value of Trey Murphy off the bench is going to be very impactful for them next season.
Yeah, at that point, this team is built enough to where you just need guys that fill a role and just really do what you need them to do at the end of the day. It's like you have really your nice, versatile, just players who can kind of do it all around the board, players that can control the ball. It's like you almost have a guy for everything. So it's just low maintenance, somebody that can just come in, do what they're asked to do at a very high level and just make everybody around them's life easier. I mean, what more can you really ask at that point?
Definitely. Yeah. Pelican stock, buy that for sure.
But yeah, oh yeah, 8 seed that took the 1 seed to 6. Oh yeah, and so they're getting their best player back. Yeah, buy that stock.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely buy that stock. Gonna be one of the most fun teams to watch throughout the regular season next year, no doubt about it.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I almost put CJ on the breakout list, but he's too old. He's too old. Because I was thinking, I'm like, okay, passing to like Zion, and he already had really good stats last season. Like, I thought about it, I'm like, dude, CJ could be an all-star. He could do it. Because there's a couple players that like get hurt every year. So there's like all the West guards, but a couple players get injured here and there. But then like one player has like a down season or something, and then all of a sudden he's in, And it's like and then that's not saying like I wish injury on like the better players. It's just it happens. We know it happens every year. There's what, like 24, 26 all-star spots, and there's always like 28 guys that make the all-star team.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Wiggins was an all-star starter last year. I mean, injuries happen. Like that's kind of how it is.
DeJounte got in last second. Like, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that potentially holds me back on CJ and not calling him an all-star is he going to be better than Zion and Brandon Ingram in that type of push?
I don't think so.
Because the Pelicans probably aren't getting 3 all-stars unless they end up being a 1 seed, which, I mean, maybe, but there's a lot of good teams in the West. So I don't know if he gets numbered. I don't know if he becomes one of the 2 Pelicans that potentially make the all-star game.
Yeah. I think there's a world where he makes it over Ingram just because he's a guard. So he's probably going to get a little bit more touches. His assist numbers will look good. And I think his scoring numbers will still look good. It's just, but Brandon Ingram is a little bit more dynamic. So I think if I was a betting man, I'm saying Ingram makes it over him, but I can see a world where it's the opposite.
I think it could be a case like maybe CJ is better. Like he could be better than BI, but because BI is a forward and the forward pool in the West is not as strong, BI might still make it over him. Like, kind of happens a lot. Like last year at the All-Star break, like a lot of people were like, Jaylen Brown might be better than Tatum so far this season. But Tatum made it because he was a forward.
Yeah.
And then we saw a second half of the season win, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case sometimes. Speaking of Brandon Ingram, he's on my list.
Oh, wow. That works out.
I think there's a big season incoming for Brandon Ingram. He showed last year how much of an impact he made on this New Orleans team from when he was injured at the start of the year to when he got back, and how much that changed their year. I mean, they were looking like they were destined to be one of the worst teams in the league, and then they end up finishing in the playoffs. I think he's going to be in a situation now where he has a point guard around him for the full season. He has Zion back, which just makes his offense come way more easier this upcoming season. His 3-point looks are going to be much easier, which was one of his biggest problems last year, was the difficulty of those 3-point looks and how much those weren't falling. And the most promising thing I saw from Brandon Ingram last year, specifically towards the back end of the season, was a significant improvement in playmaking. I think he's starting to get to the point now where he's not just a scoring wing. He's a scoring wing who can also defend quite well, although not necessarily always as consistent as you'd want it to be. But if he can commit to that over the course of a full season, he is a very good defender. And he's at the point now where he's arguably a very good playmaker as well, from a creation standpoint with his own offense and from his passing and creation standpoint in that regard as well. I think he's got all the tools to be a borderline all-NBA caliber player with the Pelicans reaching some of the top seeds in the West, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him there next season.
Yeah. That team, like we just said, by the Pelican stock, they're going to be super nice. And Ingram, he's already been an all-star before. And, I mean, yeah, he can only continue to get better, I think. All those tools he had as the second overall pick, I think it took a little bit to get there because of just situational stuff. But he's really showing why he was drafted that high and that he is that guy.
They have a trio that I think offensively, they all kind of complement each other pretty well. I think people kind of don't look at it. CJ's so dynamic as a guard. He showed his point guard skills last season. He's going to make it a lot easier for Zion and Brandon Ingram. So, this might be we might see Brandon Ingram's best season. And I think you mentioned the defense, how it's been inconsistent, but I think them winning, which we expect them to be a lot better this season, always seems to motivate guys on the defensive side of the floor.
100%.
Yeah, it's their trio too. It's like trios that is like guard, forward, wing. I feel like always make for the best. Or I said that wrong. Guard, wing, big. I think those always work out the best just because of the team dynamic. It's like you have kind of a guy at every sort of spot on the floor. Whereas like sometimes it's like a team will have two good guards and then like a nice power forward, but then that center position's like super lacking for them, or like some sort of combination where it's just you kind of have like a hole on that team when you have three really good players. But I think their trio can cover so many bases that then with the amount of depth they have around them, because that team is deep as well, along with a really good trio, that they can really be something special. And just props to them overall for a couple years ago coming out of the AD situation and probably putting together one of the best rebuilds we've seen in a while.
Lottery luck helps, but they've done well.
But they also drafted and made the
they're
made
late
most of the right trades.
They've added good pieces around it as well. I mean, the CJ trade was brilliant. The Herb Jones selection was good. The Trey Murphy pick was good. They've done well around that, but
I mean, there was like obviously there was some sort of forks in the road, like Stan Van Gundy and Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, but it's like letting go Alonzo. But it's like overall, look at where they were in like 2019 and look at where they are now. And I think they're like, they can be happy with that. It's a 3-year turnaround. I mean, you can be happy with that.
It's crazy. They paid Devontae Graham all that money, and like he's probably like the third best point guard on the roster, or small guard on the roster.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
Probably, especially for how bad he was last year.
CJ, Jose, Devontae Graham.
Yeah. I know. Tyrik, you said you were running out of players. I only have one more written down. Do you just want to do one more go around?
I'm down.
That's fine. If y'all have any honorable mentions, we can touch on some guys also.
Yeah.
All right. My last is definitely a super homer pick. So I don't know how much his stats are going to jump up. I think they will, just because he's on a new team in a new situation. So I got to give a shout out to my guy, D'Anthony Melton, real quick. Because every time I would watch the Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies were one of the teams I watched more of last season, because everybody knows they were just super entertaining. That next man up mentality when Ja was out, it was like whether he was in or out. They had a human highlight reel, missed 30 games, and they were still super entertaining for all the games he missed. Like, every player on that team I just really enjoyed watching. But this dude, D'Anthony Melton's jump shot was like my favorite thing ever. I don't know why. It was like he had the smoothest shot ever. But that team had a lot of guards. And even with Ja missing games, it's like they had a lot of guards. But now he's in Philly, and I really think that he can come in and be their sixth man role. And last year, like, he only averaged like 10 and 22 minutes per game. But I think he can really come in and play probably even more minutes on Philly, being their like sixth man or backup guard, maybe seventh man. And I think he can do a lot of good things. I think he can put on a show. And like I said earlier, with like breakout players, sometimes it's production and sometimes it's just the amount of eyes on you. I think with him not just being another one of like the Grizzlies' insane bench depth and him being what can be more of an impact player on Philly, I really think he can turn some heads and be big and maybe even have a couple big playoff games for them this year.
That's a solid pick. I don't know if y'all remember, but I'm pretty sure he was starting early on in the season because Dylan Brooks was out with injury.
Yes.
And I feel like he was averaging like 16 a game for like the first month or so of the season. Like, it seemed like he was killing early on. Now, obviously, once Brooks comes back and Desmond Bane continues to get better, numbers died off a little bit, but that was such a underrated, not even underrated, just not talked about enough trade, man. Like what Philly was able to do. Philly had such a good offseason, man. And his role is going to be very similar, but he might, like you said, Gabe, be able to even take it to a new level. So very good pick and just very good trade by Philly, man. They scare me a lot as an Eastern Conference contender. They scare me.
Yeah, no, that trade did go really under the radar. I feel like the 76ers offseason as a whole just went under the radar. Obviously, the PJ Tucker signing was significant, but the Anthony Melton trade was very significant. And I really like the Daniel House pickup as well.
Yes.
Especially come playoff time. This means you don't have to rely on Thibault as much, which we saw can be a problem come playoff time, where House can actually shoot the three a little bit more and still gives you really good defense. And they needed a little bit more depth considering again, back to Thibault, how he can struggle at times in the playoffs. Korkmaz is a three-point shooter who seemed to forget how to shoot the three last year, so that's another bench piece that seems to have fallen a little bit out of the rotation. So the fact that they improved that depth is a really good sign for them, and I think Anthony Melton's going to be a really good part of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Tyrese Maxine was their breakout guy last year, and he probably wasn't even on anybody's radar as like a big jump guy, honestly.
No,
Tyrese and Harden in the starting backcourt, and then like Anthony Melton is that third guard. His jump shot's just so pure, bro. It's like if James Harden is passing him the ball, I think he's knocking him down.
And yeah, like you mentioned, the house signing PJ Tucker, they got Harden's guys back. Like Daryl Moore, he knows what he's doing, man. Philly's gonna be so good this year, and I think James Harden's gonna be a lot better. I think it's gonna be a lot better too. Yeah. Maybe he's not gonna get back to like 30 points a game, but I think he's just gonna be a lot better and not look like he's fat and slow and old.
If he just does like 24 and 9, I think that's very attainable for him, and I think most Philly fans would be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the first full off season in a couple of years, where guys that have been dealing with nagging injuries actually properly get the rehab. Guys that actually want to take a break during the offseason get to take a break and still get some basketball time in and get back into game shape before they get back into camp. Because we've seen guys like Harden who've had a nagging injury struggle, guys who take a bit of time off in the offseason, like Luka last year, coming a little bit overweight and not quite ready for camp. That's not going to be as much of a problem this year because guys actually had a proper length offseason and not a little 6 to 8 week rebound and then you're right back into it. So I would expect that guys like Harden are going to be in a much better spot this season to succeed than they would have been over the last 2 years.
Definitely. I'm down to my last couple of names. I mentioned I had another Spurs player. Just keep it short, simple. I like Devin Vassell a lot. I think he can continue to get better and maybe even jump up to like 16, 17 a game just because there's going to be so many shots. And he was pretty solid last year. I think he's going to be even better this year.
Yeah, I agree. He's got a lot of upside as a scorer and a shooter. And half of the most exciting part is he's probably actually going to get to play shooting guard this year as opposed to having to play at small forward, which will also help.
Exactly. Really like Devin Vassell, man. I saw people used to say like, well, they threw the Mikal Bridges label on him just because he's a lanky 6'5", 6'6" guy, but two totally different players, man. Like Devin Vassell has elite, I think, 3-and-D potential from a backcourt perspective more so than a small forward guy.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I was talking about how like I think the Pacers are going to be the worst team in the league contender, but Tyrese's stats are going to be like a head turner. Like those Spurs players, I think the Spurs are going to be the worst team in the league. But they have so many talented guys that players are going to put up stats and then they're going to turn heads.
Yeah, definitely. Between Vassell, between Primo, between Sohan as a rookie, between Kelton Johnson potentially taking another step. Like there's just so many guys. So many guys. I got to finish it off for myself with a Raptors pick because we haven't talked about the Raptors today. And I got to talk about Precious Achiuwa. Especially considering how slow he started last year. But then the back half of the season, we all saw how valuable he could be on the defensive end. And then he just randomly became not even an like a very good three-point shooter when it wasn't a thing before. So if we're at the point now where he is hitting threes over the entire course of the season, he gets to a point now where he's confident and comfortable coming in at the start of the year, which is just going to completely, at least to a majority, eliminate those very easy shots that he was missing at the start of the year, from layups to hook shots around the paint. He just struggled to start the year, and that had hurt his numbers. And if you now bring his performance that we saw from the back end of the last season in, and the production we saw in the playoffs, which was very valuable on both ends of the floor, you bring that over another year of growth and another significant role in the Raptors team, whether that be in the starting lineup, out of the starting lineup, likely off of the bench, but we'll likely see some start minutes with any bit of injuries. I think he's in a really good position to continue to show his very good defensive presence, but also show a little bit more on the offensive end.
Yeah, that was a team that desperately needed center production. Obviously, as a fan of the team, I know from the majority of the season, it's like the biggest hole was kind of bigs in general, because also like Chris Boucher kind of started the season pretty slow from what I remember,
Yeah,
and it
really
kind of took
slow.
him a while to get there as well. And so it was like with both of them struggling, it was like our center position was just dead in the water. And any team that would come into town, if we're playing a Jokic, Embiid, Bam, Cat, Ayton, even like any big, we're just toast, and there's just nothing we could do. But yeah, like Achua especially really impressed me late in the season. Like in the Philly series, he really did not do bad against Embiid. I mean,
No,
Embiid's gonna
he did
do
really
Embiid,
well.
but like he really impressed me. And if he can play like that against any top center in the league, it's like, I mean, that's a guy I want on my team. Obviously, not any sort of superstar player or anything, but definitely a very valuable starter to have on a roster.
For that to have been a signing trade, I think you guys walked away with a very, very good return. Like considering how good he got back half of the season, if you can take that into next year, man, that's damn. Y'all might have won the trade. Honestly, to be honest, y'all might have won the trade.
Yeah.
Shout out Kyle Lowry though, but y'all might have won the trade.
Yeah, no, Precious Achua is such a valuable player to have. I loved him in his rookie year in Miami. He's just a fun player to watch from a defensive standpoint. He just makes those winning plays. He's a good rim protector. He rebounds well. He hustles. He gets the loose balls. He just does all the right things that you want in a modern day center. So it's a good player to have.
I'm
I've got.
surprised. Oh, you got somebody else? Go
No,
ahead.
I was gonna say my one honorable mention, but that's gonna lead into a whole conversation. So you got some. I'm gonna give it to. I'm gonna let you say it now.
I was just gonna say I'm surprised nobody mentioned Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's on my list, but I didn't bring him up.
I thought he's on mine too, but I thought somebody else was gonna say him, so I just left it alone.
Yeah, so I guess all three of us. That was sort of me with like De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards. I didn't put him on my list because I'm like they're definitely gonna talk about him. I was like, let me get somebody else. And he was like, if you like literally Google right now NBA players who are about to break out, he'll be like one of the first names that comes up. So it's like,
For sure.
I don't know. He's gotten so much shine, and I'm like, yeah, let me make my list guys that are like my own predictions and not something I saw on social media.
For sure. I also feel like comparative to the hype, I'm not anywhere near as high on him on that. Maybe long term, but not at least for next year.
I like Patrick Williams, but I'm not like chill out on the Kawhi Leonard stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he'll be really good, but nah, just stop. And there's not any player that would make him like. I would trade him away if the right trade was on the table and it made the Bulls better.
Yeah, I think he's much more of an OG Anunoby projection than he is a Kawhi Leonard. I think that's a much more accurate take on his projection.
Which is still really good. But
no, yeah, it's still a very good player.
Okay, so my one honorable mention, just because, I mean, it's really situational, is I think Ben Simmons is about to remind y'all who he is, man. I really think
I'm still big on Ben Simmons.
not like you, but like obviously in like probably if you make a top any whatever most hated players in the league list, Ben Simmons is on it. Everybody hates Ben Simmons, and the only reason he's an honorable mention is because like the whole trade situation is unresolved and they're probably just going to be back. But even so, Ben Simmons, when he didn't have a ball dominant center next to him, that was a different beast, man. And like as like a guy that has to play in the paint, we saw him. The best players he played with was Jimmy, who was an inconsistent shooter, and Embiid, who is, I mean, he can stretch the floor if he wants to, but that's not where he does his best work. So Ben Simmons playing with two perimeter players as the inside guy, or in a situation where either they're not playing because this is Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, or a situation where they get traded, Ben Simmons is going to have a lot of big games, probably a lot of big stats in certain situations, and obviously he's going to come back as, I assume, one of the top defenders that he's always been. So overall, I really think that he's going to remind a lot of people just exactly who he is. Is he going to take more shots? I don't know, because he plays with two Super Bowl dominant ISO scorers. But is he going to do everything else? Because Kyrie and KD really aren't the strongest playmakers, aren't the strongest rebounders, aren't the strongest defenders in the world. Is he going to be that glue guy that they really need on that team? Yes. And I think a lot of people are going to be very impressed with what he does because it's a team that really needs his skill set.
I think I tweeted those exact same words like a few weeks ago. Like Ben Simmons is about to remind y'all who he is. Like like he got so much blame for the Philly situation, which partially was his fault, partially was everybody else's fault. You know, a lot of people had a factor in their downfall, but I just want to see the man play basketball again because he's so good at what he does. People focus on what he can't do, which is shoot the ball, but he does everything else at such a high level. Nobody, I mean, people do, but nobody really kills Draymond Green that much for not being a lights out shooter. You know, and same thing with a lot of guys. Hell, Rondo was the Celtics point guard for years and couldn't shoot, but nobody really held that against him that much because he did everything else so well. Ben Simmons is that kind of guy. Like people want him to be, you know, face of a franchise, LeBron James type dude. Maybe that's just not who he is. You know, he might be more of a connecting piece. So that's a good honorable mention. The Brooklyn situation is just so murky right now. We don't know what's gonna be happening. But if he is there, I think he's gonna have a nice season if he's healthy, bounce back, and Brooklyn will be, I think, a pretty solid team as well.
Yeah, I agree. I got nothing to add to that one.
I had like in my honorable mentions, I had Cam Thomas there, and that's only because if they trade everybody away, a lot of shots are going to be there. But if they bring people back, he probably won't see the floor that much this season. So that's why he's in honorable mentions.
Yeah, fair enough.
When you say Cam, for some reason, I thought you were about to say Cam Johnson. Because I don't know why. Cam Johnson has random big games, and it's like, I think his peak is where he's at. I think he came into the league so old that he just, like, kind of reached what he was going to be fast, and he's just going to be that for a while. But Cam Johnson, man, one of the most random players that's just nice for no reason.
He had like a week stretch. He was averaging like 30.
Did he have like a 40-piece and hit like a half-court game winner against somebody last year?
It was close. It was either 40 or it was like 38, 39 or something like that. But yeah, hit that bank shot against the Knicks.
Yes, yeah.
Like, bro, people just don't understand how good NBA players are. Like, if NBA players get the bulk of the shots, like, that's how games like that happen.
Yeah, facts. My honorable mention, I'm going to go with Isaac Okoro.
I thought of him.
I still really like his defensive ability. I think he's a valuable player on that end. He's not like a top tier defensive player, but he is a good defender. He competes well on that end. And although he's still not a great 3-point shooter, he made good improvements from year 1 to year 2. If we can continue to see that in year 3, where he's at least a respectable 3-point shooter, he's going to be a really good rotational piece moving forward. Whether that means he stays in the starting lineup long term or he ends up moving to the bench, that remains to be seen. But I think he's going to be a solid player who can just be a good 3-and-D guy at the 2 or at the 3. And I think we'll see that a little bit more improvement from his 3-point shooting this season, because he still wasn't amazing from 3-point range last year. But considering he was like really bad in year 1 and was okay last year, I'll take that for a year 1 to year 2 improvement.
I don't remember where I heard this stat, but they said I think he had the most wide open like 3-point shots in the league last season, or it was either that or teams left him open like more than any other player, which it's kind of crazy to think about. So if he can just become league average, deadly guy, because his defense is crazy already, like just at a young age. But if he can become league average, man, that's just another really good integral piece for the Cavs.
Just make him pay. That's all you got to do. Be respectable.
Just be a good corner 3-point shooter. Like, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, last year on catch and shoot threes, he shot 36.8%, which was in the 60th percentile. So it's like,
solid.
If you can get that up a little bit more, you're in a really good spot.
A team that could use some really nice perimeter defense too. So,
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
All my other honorable mentions, we already kind of talked about, like Okongwu, RJ. I had Lonnie Walker on there because somebody has to fill that Malik Monk role.
I did think of him with that team, yeah.
Why not him? But then again, I don't know.
I've been pushing that train for him for so many years. I've given up on him.
That's how it was with Malik Monk, and I gave up last year.
Yeah, I think he'll become a much more popular player. So I think he'll break out into like the public eye more and be a more well-known player because he plays for the Lakers, and Lakers talk is everything.
Hopefully that's in a positive light.
Lakers talk got Kendrick Nunn possible without popular. I mean, without even playing. So it's
Laker
like
legend. He's a Laker
everybody
legend.
everybody is going to know who Lonnie Walker is, but will his production be that much better? That's completely to be seen, and I'm really not sure.
Maybe he turns into a 20-point per game scorer all of a sudden and is one of LeBron's best teammates.
Right. It's
Man.
just when you have LeBron and Westbrook and they're trying to work AD back in and kind of figure out their trio aspect, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of room for like a fourth guy to really kind of show out.
I mean, Monk had to do it last year, so.
But yeah, but that was with AD out and also like.
And AD's not going to be out this year.
No,
It's AD, man. Like,
this is a positive podcast, Devin.
No, not when Anthony Davis comes up. The Jazz. who else do we slander? We stopped the Kings slander for a while until they mess up again, but Anthony Davis, no.
Our arc with the Kings is crazy, bro. It went from weekly Kings slander to like weekly Kings praise, and for me, it was all because of Keegan Murray. But it seems like for Devin, it's De'Aaron Fox.
I don't know what it is. I just like the moves they made in the offseason. Like they made some really good moves. Kevin Huerter was a good move. Malik Monk.
For you, it's Malik Monk because you were on the Malik Monk train forever. We all got our own reasons.
There's tweets on my page, man. Like I was a Malik Monk stan when he was in college.
Hey, I was the Andrew Wiggins prophet last year, man. You tweeted out that who's a player who hasn't been getting enough recognition, and I tweeted it. I replied to you, Andrew Wiggins. All-star starter, second and finals MVP, baby.
I was on the Wiggs train the year before when Clay was out and Steph had that crazy year because Wiggins was so good defensively that season. But he kind of blew me away in the playing games because he was so bad, especially in that Memphis game. He was garbage. I'm like, bro, I don't know if I can back Wiggs up anymore after that. I got one more guy though. Another Portland guy. I think he's going to continue what he was doing last year before he got hurt, man. Nas Little was really good before he got hurt last year. And I'm going to take my W's while I can because there's a video on my channel last year or somewhere. I don't know if I was on somebody's podcast, but I mentioned both of those guys, Anthony Simons and Nas Little, as guys that I think are going to take a nice step forward. And they both did. And then injuries happened, so it ended their seasons. But I think Nas Little can have a nice year. And I forgot to mention him earlier. Like he's another wing player that's pretty solid defensively, can provide some shooting from the 3-point line. So he's going to be another key piece for that Blazers team.
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing some research the last couple of days on a Portland video. Like it, even though I'm still not that high on Portland, like this has got to be the best collective group of wings that Dame's ever had between Nasir Little, who I think will have another good year. Like Jeremy Grant's there now, Josh Hart's there now. They actually have some quality wings who can give them some good 3-and-D presence. It's good to see.
It's just like the West is, we say this every episode, 10 times an episode. The West is so good.
So good. Yeah.
So it's like, I think their floor is like, I think they'll be a playoff team. I think Dame's going to come back and look like Dame because he's had all this time to rehab, get healthy. But man, the West is just so good. It's like, I'm not sure if they're going to, like you said, this is probably the best complete, maybe most complete roster Dame's had. He has now not one guy that can get buckets next to him, but Jeremy Grant as a third option is pretty good. But it's just like, you look at other teams, like they're better. They could probably be better. They made moves to be better than this team. It's like, there's so many good teams in the West, man. It's like, they might be like an 8 seed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't even think like the East is that bad either. I feel like most of the league is really good at this point.
Yeah.
Like
this is
with
the most
the
talent
bottom,
this might be the most talent we've seen in the league in a long time, if not ever, specifically from like a depth standpoint.
Like in the East, I'm like, I think you can feel how you want about New York, that you could consider them like just to be a bad team, as in like Washington and Indiana. So it's like,
Washington, the two teams, and Charlotte.
And Charlotte should have been like in that play-in range again, or like still on the up. It's just they lost.
They shouldn't be though. They should go ahead. They should go ahead and be ass. Like honestly, they should.
It's just they're set. Like I can't even give Charlotte too much crap just because they had a really solid duo, and then bro went out and he did what he did, and so it's like Charlotte did catch some L's, but it's like the biggest L they caught, losing their second best player for nothing that had a lot of potential. Like, I really cannot blame them that much.
That's not like when I think of them having a trash offseason, of course that comes to mind because it's like, damn, you just lost 20 points a game. But it's more so bringing in Steve Clifford is just like that right there was just a pathetic move that I just don't like with the direction that their team is in right now. And they're already in a weird stage where they got young pieces, some that can't touch the floor. Obviously, LaMelo Ball is so talented, but it's like the offense isn't ran through him like it should be. Like Devin will mention, like Cody Zeller's getting post touches and stuff like that last season. Like it's just, or Mason Plumlee, I'm sorry, but it's just like things like that. And then you go get Steve Clifford, who is notoriously, I don't play young guys. That's why Orlando got his ass up out of there a couple years ago. That's my main thing. Like James Bouknight, when he played last season, very productive, but he barely played. Kai Jones, we was looking at him like, oh, they got a young big, barely played. I don't remember one Kai Jones moment from last season. And then you just go out and get Steve Clifford. It's like they're going to be in a weird spot. Terry Rozier still on the roster. They got like a mix of older dudes like Gordon Hayward still there, Kelly Oubre. And it's like we want LaMelo to be the superstar, but he probably won't get the right, amount of superstar attention that he should get with this roster. It's just like a whole mess. They should be bad this season, but you're right, Gabe. They might still be a 10 seed again just because, LaMelo's that good. Terry Rozier's that good, but they shouldn't be. They should be ass all year. Just terrible.
The team, honestly,
my rant for today.
There's a world where Utah comes out as a 13 seed, bro. It's like,
yeah,
like the Spurs will be below them, and then like I assume the Rockets will probably be below them.
Okay,
but then like, what if OKC passes them up?
no.
And like
They
they're just but like they're like there's a world. You can admit there's a world.
I think OKC should try to be decent this year. I think they should try.
There should be a world that exists. I just don't know if their front office will allow it. They should be, but I don't know if that happens.
They're going to be greedy and try and get the top pick so they can get Victor. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't like it. I don't love it. What if Donovan Mitchell like goes crazy and gets the Jazz like the 10 seed and they make a play-in push? That would be
if
so much.
Going crazy gets them to a 10 seed, bro, he's requesting a trade. Like if
it's a chance to make the playoffs, though.
Imagine he goes out and he averages like 2018 Harden stats, where he's averaging like, imagine he averages
35.
like 35. If Donovan Mitchell goes out and he averages like 35, 6 and 6, bro, and they're like a 10 seed, he's requesting a trade the next day. I don't care.
I mean, he's gonna have to do that. They're about to be giving up 130 a night, so
that would be hilarious. Man. If I was him, I'd just be going out there every night trying to get 40 every single night.
Well, you have to be.
Imagine he plays like it's the Denver series for 82 games.
I mean, he's going to have to play that good if they're going to be any bit relevant. I mean, their current starting center is Walker Kessler. Like,
oh my god,
they got to figure something out.
It's like the team has depth. It's just like it's Mitchell and a whole bunch of mid, because obviously they got like a truckload of quality players from Minnesota. It's just there's like no bigs. They got all those players, but they're like all guards and wings.
Yeah, their offense is still solid. That their defense was okay with Rudy, and now Rudy's gone. So now their defense is going to be terrible. Even though you got Patrick Beverly and Jared Vanderbilt, it's like your perimeter defense is better, but it's still bad, and your interior defense doesn't exist.
What's his name? Oh, I forgot. It's when you say it. Oh yeah, that's that. I know it. Yeah, okay. It slipped my mind, bro.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. I don't know if I ever mentioned the Raptors are making the finals next year. We signed Bo Cruz. Dude, I completely forgot about it. That completely slipped my mind. I was just chilling on. I literally opened Instagram the other day. It says, "Welcome to the North, Juancho Hernangomez," and I was like, "No way."
Yeah, that news came out like I think Monday or something like that. Like it came out a while ago.
Yeah, it's old news at this point just because of our weekend schedule, but the Raptors got Bo Cruz, bro. We're going back to the finals, baby.
Only got a real number one option. No, I'm just playing. Oh, man.
Scotty and Bo, man. We just keep bringing in international guys that are just nice like that.
Real talk. Yeah, I think I hit everybody everybody on my list.
Yeah, I got everyone too, I think. Yeah.
The off season. These are the dog days of the off season.
This is 100 or an hour and 44 minutes of basketball talk is the most basketball talk we've given out in probably like 2 months.
Facts. And it might be the most you get for the next 2 months. So just keep that in mind.
I mean, we probably starting top 10 lists soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that next episode?
It can be. You're going to be gone for a bit though, Gabe, right? So we'll probably have a week off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I leave next Friday for vacation. So if we want to, honestly, depending on, we could do it like a weekday because I'm off next like Wednesday, Thursday. So if we wanted to get an episode in and then drop that like for the next weekend's episode, because then I'll be gone from like next Friday to like the Sunday after that. So I don't want to miss 2 weekends in a row. So we could get like one more episode out over next week. So that way we only miss like 1 week of uploading. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. I work Wednesday, Thursday, but I get off at like 6. So I could be ready by like 7.
We can make something work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good pretty much anytime. So can make something work with that for sure.
Boy, I got 4 more days of work and then I'm done.
I got 2. We're almost out.
I got 4 more days and I'm done. Oh my God. I might spit on the floor before I leave Amazon.
I'm putting in all my Amazon orders today.
Hey, I'm off until Wednesday, so do what you want to do, brother. Do what you want to do. Man. What y'all been up to though, other than making content or working out? What y'all been up to, man?
I've been playing way too much Call of Duty, bro.
I've been peeping your snap. I've been peeping your snap story. It's like a COD upload every day.
I went back to Black Ops 2. I got round 30 on every single map, man. Zombies is like my thing, bro. Like everybody has that game they're like super good at. Zombies is my game. It's like zombies and like Nintendo games. It's just like if you put me on like COD multiplayer or like some other like good shooter, like put me on like Overwatch or something, or like one of those like super competitive games, I'm terrible. I cannot play. I'm trash. But put me on zombies, bro, and I'm that guy.
Bro, zombies is generational, man. Like I know y'all used to have times where you would probably stay over your friend's house. Y'all would be up until like 4 in the morning playing zombies.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Good times, man. That's the only COD game mode I would even look forward to playing, honestly. I was just so bad at COD.
Yeah, I feel that. No, I honestly haven't been up to too much. I finished my course on Thursday, and I was like, I'm just going to sleep for a day and get back onto it. I'm playing a bit of Apex, but that's about it.
Yeah, now it's time to get ready for the apartment, too. I got like 2.5 weeks until I move or so.
For sure.
I've been living out on my own for the first time, man. Not counting dorms, of course, but.
Are you off campus?
Yeah, so I'm living in an apartment. I'm a proud tenant, man. I got that lease. Starts the 18th.
Okay. That's nice, man. That's nice.
Yeah, I had to hit the IKEA trips. Hit like this chairs for the apartment. I just set it up early because I could not sit on my old chair anymore. These 2-hour episodes, man. The chair I was running before, you can kind of see it in the background back there. It's just straight hard. It's just no cushion at all. Not even on the seat. 2 hours of that was not doing my body right. So
I feel it. No, that's solid. First apartment feeling is always like so good. Even though you've been in dorms and stuff, but an apartment is different.
You can actually decorate it right. Like in a dorm, you can barely put stuff on the walls and all that for real. You can't do as much as you'd like to. You can't really choose where furniture goes and stuff because there's not enough space to really change it. It's like it might sound corny, but home decorator Gabe is about to show up in full action, bro.
That's good though because a lot of men they just move in.
Yeah, do not care.
Got a bed, somewhere to sit.
I'm bad
We're
for
good.
You see,
I'm so simplistic with stuff like that. I just don't care enough.
I
It's
don't
a
know
part
if
of
I
being
would be.
independent.
I don't know if I would be, but my sisters would not let me live like that minimalistic. Like they would make sure I decorate my place a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, you got to do it at some point. It's just a part of being independent, man. You know, back 40 years ago, you know, you were married at 30, so or not at 30, you were married at like 19. So everybody had a wife to kind of take care of the decorating and all that. But now as a modern day male, you got to know how to do stuff like that, man.
Not for real. And it's just like if I have friends over or if I have a girl over, like I don't want them to just walk into this like
Exactly. Walking the white walls.
like every person that's walked in my apartment, they're like, "Oh, it's nice in here." I'm like,
Yeah.
like it's not gonna be dingy
Yeah.
here."
Especially, yeah, I think living on your own, it's pretty easy to keep it clean too if you're only cleaning up after yourself, you know. All the messes you clean are all the messes you make.
Facts.
So
It's nice.
plus it's a little bit less space than cleaning a house, you know.
For sure. Yeah. I don't envy my mother for the last
Yes.
25 years cleaning up after kids.
Yeah, me neither.
Facts.
I had like the most busy week from the jump, bro. Had 3 interviews this week. Work, been in the gym, had some videos record. Like such a long week, man. And it's like this next week's about to be all the same. Like probably more interviews, more work, more videos. Like
It never ends.
Never ends. I can't wait until the week I have off from just everything. I might sleep for like 2 days straight, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Honest.
For sure.
Man,
I feel that.
I've been a little sick all week. I've had a little cold. Tested for COVID, I'm negative, luckily. So dodge that. But because last week, just like last week, I was holed up here all week because my mom and her man had COVID. So they did have COVID. So I was like holed up here trying to distance myself from them. But I've had this like stuffy nose all week, and I think I'm finally on like the better end of it. But for a couple of days, I was like super bad. And luckily, I took off Friday, but I was still busy Friday because my sister graduated college. So I did a bunch, and then I was out at like parties and stuff that night for that. So it's been a busy week in work, but having 3 days off work in a week where I was a little under the weather is very nice.
Bro, like I had got sick maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't know if we had to push the podcast back, but I know me and Devin were supposed to record our video for my channel, and I had to push it back because I think I was feeling sick. And like, bro, I tested. It wasn't COVID, but I felt so bad. I'm like, bro, this has to be COVID. Like, there's no way it's not.
I feel like we might have pushed back the pod like a day or so. I feel like we still got it out that week. I don't think that was the week we missed, unless it was.
I think we did push it back a day because I think like by the time the weekend was over, I felt fine enough to record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think at home tests. I think I either do them wrong or they're just not trustworthy.
Might be a bit of both.
Yeah, because I'm like, bro, there's no way. I mean, I still have my taste and everything, but it's like everything else felt like COVID. I've had COVID at least one time before. I'm like, this is what it feels like. Like, this is exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, I didn't really have like the COVID symptoms. I think I had like, I don't know. Mine is weird because I have like allergies too, so I get like headaches and stuff from that all the time. So it was like I had a headache when I had like the first couple of days of my cold, but it was like more of like a sinus headache from just my nose being stuffed than like a really bad like migraine. So I'm like, this is not the same as like when I had the flu even. And then obviously I can taste, I can smell, like everything that usually comes with COVID, I was like pretty cool with. So I don't think I had it, but like at the same time, if I did, I mean, there were 2 people in my house with it. So like maybe.
I already know cases are about to probably go back up as soon as we get back to school because all them people are going to be there. Or at least just people getting sick in general. Like, man, because, you know, nobody's going to be wearing any mask for real. So it's going to be bad.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, it's kind of like developed enough to where I think we're close to just treating it like another sickness.
You would hope.
As opposed to like changing the whole world and everything for it. Like, just because obviously, especially talking about like campus where vaccination rates are like 95% and everything, like I think we'll be cool up there for the most part. People might get COVID, but I think they'll just be like, okay, just take a couple days away from class. Like I think while cases might come up again, I think like deaths and things that really matter are gonna go down. At the end of the day, if you get through it, that's the important thing. We want to keep the deaths down.
Hopefully, bro. It's been like pretty much 3 years, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it happened when I was still in high school, and I'm entering my 3rd year at college. So
Crazy.
That is crazy. Crazy
Gabe's
stuff.
still 19, bro. You need to hit 20 at some point, bro. Join the Dub Club, bro.
Hey, listen, I view Jason Tatum as an inspiration.
This man been 19 since like 2004.
Yeah, bro. I've been 19 since KD joined the Warriors, man. I don't know what else to tell you.
Damn near. Man, y'all see Mike James said Steph Curry's one-dimensional?
What bro? Literally the most casual take. Every time somebody says, "Bro, what can Steph Curry even do besides shoot?" Oh, that's all I gotta hear. That's all I got. Just the best off-ball player of all time, top 3 handles of all time, good passer, really good rebounder for his position. He's a really good finisher, by the way. The amount of circuit shot and ones that man has finished is insane. Steph. They gotta stop playing with my man. Steph.
Was Mike James, was he on a podcast when he said that?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what that was said
He
on.
doesn't, wherever he was, they need to not invite him back because what are you talking about?
I didn't see.
Well, I mean, they gave him probably the most media notoriety they've ever gotten. So
probably, yeah.
That's why
I didn't see a video. I just saw the quote. Gotta look it up.
You're talking about Mike James, like the one that was on the Nets for a second?
Yes, which is crazy because Mike James is such a hooper, but now it's like all people are going on for saying that.
He's a apparently.
Players Choice, we are not the same podcast.
This is exactly what we're talking about, where they say just because you play ball does not mean that you are the most qualified to talk about it. Like, you can be a hooper and still make terrible takes like that.
Oh, 100%.
You said Players Choice, right? I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst podcast in the world. The worst part. Like, you can tell whenever they talk basketball, probably at least 99% of the people on their panel don't really watch basketball. They are ass.
Well, no, if you think Steph Curry is one-dimensional, all you look at is stats and not even well.
Yeah, definitely not well. Well, their banner on YouTube has flop takes as part of their banner, so
yeah.
Not to send them too much shade, but it's definitely not the most encouraging thing to have in a banner.
What is
they had people on their podcast saying that Matthew Dellavedova could do the same thing that Rondo was doing for the Celtics. One dude said Kawhi Leonard's defense was vastly overrated. He's not really that good of a defender. And a lot more, man. I had to mute that page, bro, because I'm like, man, I can't keep seeing this shit.
I hate that take too. Like the Kawhi's defense is overrated thing. Kawhi's defensive stats are not as good as they were in 2016 because of the offensive load he has. If he wasn't relied upon to be a 25-plus point scorer, he could still play defense like that if he really wanted to. You see it in playoff moments. If he needs to step up and clamp somebody up, he is still that guy. He just doesn't do it as much as he used to. And you see that with almost everybody. Like, LeBron literally had so many times where he's like, not trying on defense could take off. This is the same dude that was in like defensive player of the year conversations. We say like his trophies in Marc Gasol's trophy case. Like, LeBron was a great defender. He just didn't always have it turned on. And that's pretty much what Kawhi has become. Like, your defense being overrated and you just not always being 100% on defense are two completely different things. His tools and his skill set are still, I won't say they're as amazing, but they're pretty close. He's definitely not overrated. If you wanted to call him a top 10 defender still when he's trying his best, he is. He just is.
It's one of the few times I've seen Gabe get powered up.
Hey.
Nah, Exactly though, man. Like we see Kawhi, like he's not going to guard Luka 48 minutes, but when it's the last 5 minutes of the game or fourth quarter, he's on Luka. He's guarding Luka. He's guarding LeBron's, James Harden's, Steph Curry's. He's guarding those guys down the stretch. People just have lazy. People have these platforms, and sadly, they get big platforms from making these bad takes of just being lazy as hell and just making lazy analysis of the game of basketball, which is just why it's sad that is what draws attention. We've had this conversation before, but that's what draws attention. Like people just like the lazy ass takes of, oh, this guy's overrated. This guy's overrated. This guy's better than this guy because of this stat. It's just lazy ass stuff like that, man. Like people just got to be better. That's all I ask. Is just be better, watch the games, and make proper analysis. That's it.
See, I think my thing with that is like, I find that very entertaining from the sense of being able to make fun of it. So I think my thing is I usually will watch like then the reaction videos of where the people are like roasting it, and then I'll roast it along with them. It's kind of like I watch like Souls and Sage all the time reacting to ESPN, like just terrible takes by like Perkins or Mad Dog Russo or Stephen A or whoever else, because it's just fun. And it's like they're calling it out for being stupid. And so then the whole community, you're just kind of joining in on it together. Because at the end of the like a roast session is always going to be fun. And at the end of the day, nobody's feelings are hurt because the guys you're making fun of are like millionaires.
Yeah, it's great. I was thinking of making like a reaction channel just to react to like people's bad takes. Like I was really just thinking, I just wanted to test out a new channel, see how I could build it up. I feel like that'd be so entertaining. Like me just getting mad at people having just terrible takes.
You can share a screen in StreamYard, man. If we put together some reaction videos on this channel, I think it'd be fun.
It would be because it actually would be fun, bro.
Reaction
videos always hit.
Yeah. The three of us going in on some stupid takes, like
might have to be a filler video during the off season for sure.
I like the idea. I would definitely be down for that, man.
Now that we're off of Zoom and have a much better platform to go off of.
Bro, I'm sick of Zoom, man. I'm sick of their asses, bro. Because I've had people on the channel, and I'm like, I told Devin, I'm like, these are usually run for like this amount of time. We always go over. It's closer to 40 minutes, and it's like I kind of have to wrap it up quickly at the end because I'm like, bro, time's about to run out and stuff. And it's like these are such good conversations that I've been having, and Zoom just doesn't want to see us be great. And I don't want to have to just stop in and then start another Zoom call because that's just annoying. It ruins the flow. Like I'm sure our podcast have been 10 times better since we had to stop doing that.
Yeah, 100%. There's not just this random cut 30 minutes in that's usually swaps to some different topic, or if it is the same topic, it's not a clean transition. And
exactly. 2 hours in, I think this has been one of our best episodes already. Just from the flow of it, like we literally got in like 40 seconds into the episode. It's like, all right, we're gonna start with the first breakout player, and then we just been talking about it. We got basketball talking for like an hour, 44 minutes without any weird breaks or pauses or anything. And then just seamless transition to the after show, bro.
Yeah, our chemistry's gotten. I mean, obviously with time it's gonna get better, but we've been doing this since like January, maybe.
Yeah, mid-January, I think.
It's gotten a lot better since that point. Like we just know like start here and then next guy jump in. We rarely really talk over each other that much, which is kind of bound to happen, but we don't do it that often. It's like, we feed off of each other's energy pretty well.
Yeah, facts. It's been good. Definitely been good.
We got to the technical difficulty phase too.
Yeah, don't jinx it yet.
Yeah. If somebody lags out at this point, bro, we're
call the episode.
Yeah.
I know Devin usually does the outro, but if Devin lags out, bro, I'm cutting an outro and we're calling it there.
Thanks.
No, for real. I was gonna say something earlier. I'm like, I wonder who's gonna have technical difficulties today, but I didn't say it. Left it alone. Didn't want to jinx it.
I always get scared because where I'm like right next to my PC and stuff, my router is like right next to my right foot. So like half the time like right now I'm sitting with like my foot up on the bed because there's like guest beds next to me because like the office and the guest room is kind of the same at my house. So I'm like, dude, if my foot touches that router, it's wraps.
Cooked. Man, I think it started raining, bro, and I'm so confused because it was so sunny earlier and nice.
Well, yeah, if you've got rain in Columbus, I guess I'll be expecting some rain in about 2 hours.
Potentially. I'm so confused because it was so nice earlier, like almost a clear sky, and then I started hearing like thunder and stuff. Man,
Maybe your storm moves northwest, and maybe Devin's expecting some soon.
maybe.
That'd be quite the storm.
Maybe.
And that's the way it be here, though. If we get a storm like that, it's just sunny, and then 5 minutes later, it's just no storms here.
Just so yeah, that's I hate this. I hate summertime weather. Like people ask me, like my least favorite 2 seasons are probably summer and winter. Honestly,
Yeah,
like those are
me
just
too.
the worst.
Me too.
I'm a fall guy personally.
Me too.
I think
Yeah, me
I
too.
think I'm probably if I have to rank them, I'd probably say
Actually, spring might be third.
fall is probably my favorite. Yeah, I think I like summer the second best because I'm not in school. Spring. The problem with spring is that my
Allergies. Allergies. That's what's wrong with
allergies,
spring.
allergies, and the fact that spring semester drags so long.
And the weather's inconsistent. It's like one day
Yeah.
you gotta bundle up because it's still cold, and the next day it's hot, and then next thing you know, you got shorts and a hoodie on with a beanie, and it's like, we're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, being an adult is real. Like my laundry right now is just all warm weather clothes. In the spring, it's like you gotta have all your clothes out at one time, and then you got all this stuff in the laundry. It's like I just got my warm weather clothes, and then in the winter I got my cold weather clothes, and then in the fall it's still pretty consistent because like it's getting colder. So it's like if it's like high 60s, I can go out in jeans and a t-shirt. But then if I need to throw that jacket or hoodie on, I can. But the spring is just so like there's days where like I'd be wearing shorts to class, bro, and freaking Spencer always be roasting me. I get in there, he's like, "Where's kind of day, Mr. Ware?" And I'm like,
I mean, I would be thinking the same thing. Like, bro, it's only 55 degrees. Why you got some shorts on, man?
Bro, listen, I'm the type of guy that stays toasty, bro. If I'm inside and it's like 55 and they got the heat on, I'm toasty. I'm gonna start sweating if I'm wearing pants. So
I'd
like,
be hot too, but it's like I can't, like my legs still get cold, so it's like I can't be out with some shorts on when it's like 50 degrees. I have to have sweats on. That's the only option.
fair enough. You a sweats king though. I you always posted in the sweats.
Bro, my thing in high school, I had a pair for every day of the week. That was my thing in high school. I always had a different pair of sweats every day of the week, man. Like, they're just so comfy. Like
though.
if I don't have to dress like somewhat casual, I won't. Like I'll just wear sweats, be comfortable.
Yeah, I feel that. That's still me too. Most days to class now, it's like, yeah, I just throw on my sweats and I'll be good to go.
Exactly. Don't got nobody to impress. I might spice it up, throw some shoes on with them, but that's really it. I'll wear shorts like early fall semester. I'll wear some shorts, but that's really it.
Sometimes sweats like bring out shoes the best. Like if you got some really nice like runners or some I think like some nice like Air Maxes or Vapor Maxes or things. I think sweats can really bring them out.
Agreed. I feel like I say this every episode. I'm ready to go back to school.
Yes.
Kind of missed the grind, man. I ain't gonna lie. Kind of missed the grind.
Now that I'm not taking gen eds and I'm just taking actual major classes, it's only taken like 15 years of being constantly enrolled in education. But I'm finally just doing stuff for a career and not just taking random stuff that they want me to take. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. So it's how I slowly felt as I progressed through first year engineering. It's like, yeah, here's a bunch of random courses that won't apply to your major, but just in case this course ends up changing your mind, we'll give it to you. It's like, here's a computer science course, even though you're not interested in software engineering, but here, take it. And it's like year two, it's like, yeah, here's a bunch of courses. Some you'll use, some you won't. They're all non-applicable. We don't actually show the application to how they work in engineering. We just teach you all the numbers behind it, but we don't actually show you how this applies. And then third year, finally, it's like, oh, this is how you actually use it. It's like, yeah, okay, this actually makes sense now. It's like it's the beauty of school. It's like, yeah, just get the slow progression. You start taking your histories and for me, your Christian ethics, and you slowly but surely over the course of 15 years, build your way up to actually taking something that actually applies to where you want to end up at.
So what is y'all's like dream position within your career fields?
That's tough because there's so many different positions I could have. Probably something within like wastewater management or water treatment, something in water. There's a bunch of positions in that, but something with water treatment, wastewater treatment, something like that.
I think there's so many routes I could go. Like I could definitely see myself being happy. Like right now, obviously my main thing is just editing. Like I just edit a bunch of articles and papers. And that's super enjoyable because I know every single scoop and every single story that's coming out, all the juicy details, sometimes like stuff from the interviews and info that like gets cut out of the story or like things like that. Like I see everything. Well, no matter what desk it's on, no matter what kind of story it is, I see everything and I really enjoy that. So like pure editing I think is really cool just from that perspective. But then also there's a part of me, I would love to be like a TV producer. Like or like a TV writer. Like I would love to write like TV like or just like write out the things, like come up with the plans of like what they're gonna talk about on like the ESPN shows. And like come up with like segments and stuff. I think even stuff like that would be super fun and interesting.
That's intriguing. That probably will still fall under like what you're going to school for. So that's obtainable for sure.
Even a lot of like people since I'm for journalism, a lot of people end up going to like public relations. That would definitely be like the PR person for like a big company and just talk to media all day. Like I could really enjoy that because now I know how to like, since I am media right now, I know how to navigate the relationship and being on the other side. But the thing I've realized by interviewing people, I'm like, if somebody was interviewing me, I think I'd really enjoy that. So it's like, and now especially because I'm like talking in front of a camera all the time and like on the podcast, it's like I'm sort of used to answering questions because say like Devin introduces a question for a segment, then I answer the question. So it's like even just through experience building that up, I think that just talking to media people and answering questions as a PR person, I would find very fun and enjoyable.
Being interviewed is so fun. I don't know. It's true. Like people just love talking about either themselves or something that they're interested in. Like it's that simple. For me, it used to be like writing or TV, but bro, I really love the social media stuff, man. Like it's really fun. I'm getting better at it. Like I really enjoy it. So I think I want to work for like an NBA team's social media and like be the leader in that. I think that's my kind of goal. Do y'all have like any dream city or destination that y'all want to live in?
Not really, to be honest.
I think Phoenix would be really fun. It's a fast-growing metropolitan area, nice and warm, so it's hot. Only got one set of clothes, only the warm clothes. I think it's good just like for health aspects. Since it's so hot, you're sweating all the time. I feel like I'm gonna stay in pretty decent shape if I stay in Phoenix. Like you got pretty much every sport you want at that point. You got the Cardinals, you got the D-backs, you got the Suns, you got there's probably, I don't know if there's a soccer team down there. I'm not too in touch with MLS, but they probably got it there.
Do they have
they got hockey. They got the Coyotes. I think they're newer, but they got the Coyotes.
I think so Houston's got a team, but
they got everything. So it's like they've got most sports. University of Arizona is cool even. Like I said, fast-growing metropolitan, so it's just cool from that perspective. A lot of things going on. And it's just the most west I've ever been in my life is Chicago. And that's not very far west. That's in the eastern half of the United States. So like for me to just completely like shake up my life and just go out west and see what it's like just living in a different environment, I think that would be incredibly fun. And it's like a big city, but it's not like, I don't know if I'm built to live in like New York, Chicago, LA, Houston full time. So like a nice like big city, but not the biggest of the big would be cool for me, I think.
See, I'm the opposite. I think I'm a Midwest guy. Like it used to be New York. Like I really wanted to live there, but I'm like, I can't see myself living in New York. I think I could see myself living in Chicago. And that's a big sports town. I think it would fit with my career. And it's just something about Chicago that I like. Even though I've never been there, it just seems like a great city, like good vibes.
It's really nice, honestly. I've been there twice, and both times it was pretty enjoyable trips. A lot of nice stuff to see. Beautiful city. weather's pretty good because I mean I'm more of a guy that, like I said, I just want to go somewhere really warm. But I can also get behind some like consistent cold weather, and Chicago's has pretty consistent chill for the most part, except for like the super heat of the summer.
Yeah. I just got thinking about that because my aunt asked me the other day. She's like, so if somebody offered you like 6 figures to go move out to, I think she said San Diego, like as soon as you graduate to work your job, like would you do it? I'm like, yes, like no hesitation, like
6
100%.
figures, yes. 6 figures are. I mean, the only thing is with California, 6 figures might barely be enough to like have a like comfortable living. You know what I mean? Like
San
what?
Diego
Like
might be different though. I don't know, like compared to like LA, San
most
Yeah,
of
Francisco.
it is a lot cheaper than LA, but that's
then LA,
also in comparison to LA. So
Yeah,
Cali as a whole is a pretty expensive place to live. So it like 100K in San Diego might be like 70K in Ohio or something like that.
which is still pretty decent.
But like, yeah, honestly,
I'd
70K in
take
Ohio out of college, like
I'd take
especially,
that off.
Yeah,
I'd take that
that's
off the rip
decent.
for
That's
sure.
decent.
you're taking 70K for Tyrik. You're not taking 70K for Tyrik plus a wife and kids.
Feel me? Like I would damn near move anywhere for 70 to 100K. I ain't gonna lie.
Right.
Yeah,
Fresh out of
facts.
college, I'll damn near move
Facts.
anywhere. Like you said Connecticut. I'll go. Maine. I'll
Oh
go.
yeah, bro. Imagine. Okay, yeah, you're a social media guy. Like UConn's girls basketball team calls you out of college and says, "Hey, come move up to UConn and you can work for us for this much money." Instantly, yeah, because
Yeah,
that's a
for sure.
good sports program too. Like that's a
That's a
good
great
program.
one
So
to get, bro.
exactly.
That's why, bro. Like I'm praying to God I get this Blue Jackets internship because that is gonna look so good on my resume. Like, that's gonna be a beautiful thing to add to the resume. Like you, like,
Facts.
oh, you intern for a professional team? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
hire me. Like, hire me right out of college. Like, here's everything I've done. Like, oof, I need this so bad, man. Like, I applied for 2 internships. The other one, I would be fine with having it. It's just I think the Blue Jackets one would be like pristine. Like, you can't top that at all.
Yeah, facts. Facts. That'd be a really good one to have.
I mean, yeah, considering you're in Columbus, it's like that and like crew are like your biggest professional opportunities. Now,
Facts.
obviously, writing for your school is like a big thing in and of itself because it's like a big school. But like pro is still a different level, I think. Like you can have the biggest college program, but pro is pro.
Yeah.
Bro, like people look like they don't. It doesn't matter if it's the best or worst pro league. They see it's NHL, they're like, oh, that's a professional team. You were in a
Mhm.
professional environment. Like that speaks volumes, man.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, I'm so anxious. Like I was telling Devin before you got on the call, Gabe. Like I had my second interview with them. I think it was Thursday. Bro, I was so nervous before, bro. Like because I was at work. Like, I told him I know I can only do a phone call for this time to this time. It's like, okay, that's fine. I was at work. I got out to my car, bro. I was like sitting there shaking. I was so nervous. I said a prayer real quick to God, and I had my best interview I had all last week was that interview, which I was more nervous than any other one.
Hey, for social media stuff, you got a good resume. Like YouTube channel that's been going consistently. What you done halftime for what 3-4 years?
We just 3 years was about a
3
month ago.
years.
Yep.
So yeah, they're like 3 years of consistently growing and having consistent growth on like an Instagram platform. Essentially, I saw you tweeting about how Instagram growth is not the easiest. So you getting a solid following on there is like that's like you can tell some like you can literally show the Blue Jackets that and be like, yeah, this is what I did just from scratch. So if I have your brand, like this is what I can do.
Which is crazy because like all 3 interviews I had, like one with the other company and then the 2 I had with the Blue Jackets, that was the bulk of the conversation was halftime hoops. Which is crazy because like when me and my friend Jamil started that 3 years ago, I didn't think it would hold any weight like this or change my career path. Like I didn't even envision that. It was just something I wanted to start for fun, which is just crazy to think about, man. Like that's why I always encourage people like you might as well start something if you have an idea.
Yeah, if you have something you want to pursue, then do it. Like if like you said that you just started it for fun, that's the best way to start it. And if it becomes something, well then great. That's exactly a great thing to have then. But it's different if you're just starting it because, well, I should. But if you can start it from a passion and something you enjoy doing, and that's the perfect way to go about it. And then if it becomes something, well, then showing that you can start something from scratch with that level of self-discipline, that level of dedication to something, that shows a lot of weight. So it's good to have.
Yeah. One day I'm gonna get on Twitter and he's gonna be HOH Reek.
It's crazy because I just had that conversation with one of my friends yesterday. And that's exactly what I said, because he was talking about like starting like a game, like a gaming, like kind of like how FaZe has their gaming thing. He wanted to start something like that. And I was saying like, oh yeah, you'd have to change your name to this. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I was like, man, what? I was like, if HOH signed me, I'm HOH Reek right off rip.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh yeah.
HOH Reek, overtime Reek. Don't matter.
Dude, I know. Those like big like gaming group stuff, I think it's super easy for everybody to have like growth together. Just in general, group projects, I think really kind of drive everybody to do their best, because I think you just enjoy it more. It's more of a social thing. You have people you can talk about it with, and you have people you experience it with. You kind of bounce ideas, advice off of each other. You collab together. It's like, it's usually better to do things when you're not alone, I feel like, on average.
I think it depends.
It depends on who you're working with and what you're doing, but
I mean, yeah, they got to be.
Unfortunately, I can attest to the negative side of that this semester with some of my engineering colleagues, but there's definitely, in the right environment and the right people, a lot of positives to it for sure.
Yeah, at least from a content creation standpoint, I think when everybody has that passion, it's like it can be very fruitful. I mean, stuff like FaZe and then leading to like the Sidemen and all that is huge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just from a smaller standpoint, just in the sports content creation media standpoint, like one of my buddies has a YouTube channel for everything soccer. Like we'll just sit down and talk for an hour sometimes about different stuff, whether it be different thumbnail ideas, different title ideas, different ways we want to approach our content, how we want to approach different videos to get the right audience. Like it's just those types of conversations, whether it be a big group on a bigger thing or working with smaller groups, just one-on-one. I mean, even just from a smaller scale, like me and Tyrik doing a video together, or this podcast, even like just those types of interactions, just from either discussing content creation or just making content with other people, is just something I really enjoy. It is usually a pretty big positive thing for me.
That's how it should be, man. It should be looked at more as like not a hobby, but something that's fun like a hobby, but can turn into something bigger than you could have even expected, which is kind of the beauty about just the day and age that we live in, man. Like you can turn anything into, your mainstream of income. Like that is possible, with the internet, social media. If you're consistent, if you work, like there's a chance that it can happen no matter what you do.
Man, real positive. It's really inspirational on here, man. I think we're gonna inspire everybody to be the best versions of themselves. Bro.
Be trying to, man. We always have a content creation segment, man. We don't have to motivate Gabe anymore because he said he's gonna get started. So
hey,
I'm gonna leave you alone. Man. But I'm gonna need to see a logo or something sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll give him till the start of September, and if we haven't seen anything by then you guys will be sure to hear about it. And if he has done something by then you'll be sure to hear about it. We'll just give you the link in the comments. But
most definitely.
Big trust. As soon as I move in, I'm gonna be asking right away. All right, what software you use? And then I'm probably gonna get on there and be like, bro, how do you do this?
No, for sure. Just let me know, man. Anything. It's all good.
Yes, eventually we will get a webcam on the PC, but for now, we're MacBook webcam, and I feel like this is high quality enough to start off. Especially if I go between my face and some footage, it'll definitely work out.
For sure. The Mac isn't really that bad. Like when you look at it, it's not that bad. It's okay.
No, you'd be more than fine with just that. More than fine. Be miles better than where I was. That's for sure.
Yeah, at least I'm not recording on like not recording on freaking like 480p.
480p is crazy. That's like, I don't even know what that is. That's like iPhone 3.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to know what my first videos were on, but it wouldn't have been much better than that. That's for sure.
I record mine off my iPhone.
It probably would have been better than
Off my iPhone.
whatever I was dealing
I
with.
should probably private those videos, but I don't know. I might wait. I don't know. Those were
Real
some
quick,
bad videos.
From our conversation earlier, like when we were still on basketball talk, I'm still in Nazir Little's basketball reference page.
Oh yeah,
Y'all know what it has his nickname as?
Nasty Nas.
Philosopher Nas.
That don't make
I've never heard anybody call him that in my life.
bro. Basketball reference. If you go on a deep dive, there's some people with just some wild nicknames that you're like, when has anybody ever called him that?
Facts.
Man.
Hey, some of them they get it right, but some of them they don't. Like, I just looked up Fran VanVleet. He's FVV and Steady Freddy. I've heard him be called that before. My favorite is Father Fred though. They gotta have Father Fred on there.
Father Fred. Man. Yeah, basketball reference got some wild. When are y'all drafting for fantasy? Like, have y'all's leagues been set yet? Because I still haven't set our draft time, but we know when we're drafting.
For football, I
don't
might
think
be
we've
out,
seen any
bro.
yet.
You're not doing
might-
fantasy?
Bro, I might be out.
You got to do fantasy, bro.
Here's the
Facts.
okay, because here's the thing: is literally 2 years in a row, all my players kept getting injured, and I just feel like I'm a curse, man. I'm like, these players are going through real life physical pain just because I drafted them. Like, I'm making you get surgery. I'm making you go to rehab.
You know what you need to do?
I'm taking away from your check, man.
Here's what you need to do. You need to draft all the players that have injury history, and it's going to reverse the curse. Like, they're not going to get hurt because you drafted them. Like Christian McCaffrey, you need him. You need him. Michael Thomas, draft him.
Michael Thomas, I needed him. First overall.
Oh God, never mind. No, you can't skip out on fantasy. Is like it's like religion and fantasy football is right under there. You got to do fantasy, bro. Like,
Yeah, it's just part of it.
it's
Fantasy,
just
that's true.
life.
The other thing is too, is that with fantasy, it's like I really enjoy just watching football, just like to watch the sport and see one team beat another team. And then it's like when you're playing fantasy, say I'm watching the Buccaneers play and I want the Buccaneers to beat like the Steelers. So I'll go with the Steelers because I like the Bengals. I don't like the Steelers very much. So I'm watching the Buccaneers. And then say I have like Mike Evans on my fantasy team, and then 2-minute warning, and Chris Godwin has like the craziest drive and catches the game-winning touchdown. All of a sudden, I wanted the Buccaneers to win the whole game. They had a crazy 2-minute drive that was probably incredibly entertaining, and I'm mad.
I think I definitely get what you're saying, but I think that keeps me more in tune with the NFL. Like the NBA, I won't do it. I'm probably never doing parlays again because it got me feeling that way. Like I was mad at Clint Capella and Mike and whoever the coach is, Nate McMillan for like a week. I was mad at them for like a week because they saw me. Fantasy is just different. Like you kind of get over it. Like okay, it happened. You get over it. And the guy's still on your team, so it's like okay.
I'm an AJ Brown hater now, bro, because I've had him like 3 years in a row. And I'm done with AJ Brown. The past 2 years, bro, literally, there was one. I would have made the playoffs one year if the Titans were playing somebody, and he just didn't play in the fourth quarter. He just wasn't on the field. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't anything. Coach, Vrabel just didn't have him in the game. And I'm like, what is going on? He needs one catch. If he has one catch for 10 yards, Gabe, I win the week.
Gabe, last year, he was buns basically all season long. And then as soon as you're already out of contention, here's 31 points for you. Here's 27 points for you.
Literally.
Okay, bro. I see how it is. Never, you're on the no draft list. He's on the not draft list. Aaron Jones, for reasons out of his control, is on the not draft list. I had to put David Johnson on that list a couple years ago. Like, so many players on that not draft list.
Well, the worst thing that's ever happened to me is I was doing a draft, and it was my first round pick, and my phone starts lagging, and so it didn't update to my pick, so it took the auto pick, and it was David Johnson.
Bro,
That's tough.
I
That's very
despise
tough.
I despise David Johnson.
Out of the
I
league
despise
now,
that
bro.
man. Yeah, fantasy is it's fun, but it's also very depressing at the same time.
My go-to guys in fantasy are usually like Lamar Jackson and Austin Eckler.
I've had Lamar 2 times, and it's just like the first year was his MVP season, but my team outside of him was just not good. Like everybody was hurt. So like I wasted his MVP year, and then last year he got hurt. I missed like 8 games.
Yeah, I got Lamar as a waiver wire pickup because I had Andrew Luck and Cam Newton as my quarterbacks, and Andrew Luck retired and Cam Newton got injured week 1.
You got him waiver wire?
Yeah.
His MVP season?
Yeah, I mean, it was an 8-man league. I don't know how big your leagues are, but
ours is 8, and I drafted it. Like I was plotting on Lamar,
That's
like I'm
crazy.
drafting him.
That's crazy. He was on the waiver wire. I picked him up on the waiver wire his first season.
I mean,
But
I had Luck. Somebody had Brady. Somebody had Rodgers. Somebody had Mahomes. You know, it was just like somebody had Dak, and then it's like you get to 8 quarterbacks super quick, and he wasn't that proven. Like he was a pretty good rookie, but
Yeah.
he wasn't like rookie of the year or anything. So
Well, I will say one of our years, Mahomes was a waiver wire pickup his first year starting. I will say that. So I can see how that's possible. Because those are like back-to-back seasons.
When you're not proven yet, and the quarterback is so important.
Yeah, facts.
yeah, I don't know. The way I usually take a proven guy number 1, but I usually always take a bit of a flyer number 2 as my backup quarterback because you can usually get like an okay backup for like 1 week if you need on the bye week. Because like I don't remember who I took 2 years ago, but like last year I took Jalen Hurts as my number 2. And I flipped him like 4 weeks in because it's like, yeah, okay, he's good. And one guy needed a quarterback. So given he wasn't as good after I got him, and I think I traded for Mike Williams and an okay running back or something like that. It's like, yeah, and then it's like I'll just use whatever free agent QB for a week. But I like taking a guy who's got a bit of upside at that second spot.
Yeah, there's one guy in my league that always takes a flyer. Like he just plots on one. And 2 years ago it was Kyler. And then last year it was Jalen Hurts, and both times like he's been right because both of them ended up producing the season he took them, and so I don't know who he's gonna take a chance on this year, but I feel like he's gonna make another sneak pick like that.
I might be that guy because I took Lamar his MVP season, I took Kyler his second year, which was really good. Then I took Lamar again last year, but I don't know who I'm thinking about a lot of different guys this year because I don't think I'm gonna get Lamar.
It's always the dual threat guy. Like it's always the dual threat because I mean it's fantasy. If there's a dual threat quarterback, you take him because it's just more touches, more points for him. He's gonna get rushing touchdowns at 6 points instead of 4. Like
yeah, I love myself a dual threat.
I'm gonna try and get Lamar again. If not, Josh Allen, I'm thinking about just because he be putting up some crazy numbers sometimes. So
yeah, he's a good pick.
I don't know though. Weird spot. I don't even know who my number 1 pick is going to be. I got the 5th overall pick. I have no idea. It really it depends on what happens in front of me.
I'm probably taking like Henry or something at 5.
I feel like in my league he might be gone by 5.
Yeah.
Like I know it's probably going to go JT and Henry might be 2. And then 3 is where it gets weird. Like I don't know. It might be Dalvin or Najee, I don't know. And then 4 is probably whoever doesn't get taken there. Like Christian McCaffrey might be available, but I'm so scared to take him.
Facts.
What's the Kamara situation? Is Kamara playing this season?
Bro, if he gets suspended 6 games like Deshaun Watson does, I'm gonna be so sick, bro. Like,
bro, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I should get into that discussion, bro.
I don't either because it's like I made a post on Facebook about it, and people were just in the comments like, "Oh, there's no evidence. They're just trying to tear a black man down." I'm like, bro, I'm black too. First off, secondly, there's no concrete evidence, cameras in the hotel rooms of him doing what he's alleged of being done. But it's like you're telling me 66 massage therapists in 2 years. That's like me going to 66 different barbers in 2 years.
Will Chamberlain numbers, bro.
Does not make sense, bro.
Will
Like,
Chamberlain numbers.
that's just weird right there. And it's like you're a professional athlete. There's no reason for you to have 66 different massage therapists. Like, you could easily just find one that you like a lot. If you're not doing anything scandalous, find one you like a lot and pay them. Like, it's probably that simple.
Yeah, 100%.
In my opinion, I listen to a lot of true crime. There's a lot of reasonable doubt in this case of him being guilty.
For
And
sure.
it was a civil law. It was a civil case. It got settled outside of court, which means he more likely than not paid them off outside of court.
Yeah.
And I think there's still like
there's
like 4 women who still haven't settled.
Yeah, 22 I think got settled or 20 out of the 24, something weird like that. But and then people were saying, like, just bringing up like devil's advocate, like, well, why would the women take the money instead of trying to fight it off in court? Shit like that can be traumatic, and it might not be worth them going to trial than just taking the money. So they probably just took the money just to get it over with.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time that's happened in a situation like that with a prominent figure, whether it be athlete or otherwise. Like, it's not uncommon for it to settle like that.
Especially with the amount of money they probably got, like, that's the kind of stuff that opens doors for people. Like, if you're talking, if I'm a mother, and like if I had like a case like that and somebody offers me a certain amount of money, say I got like a kid or something, and I'm like, this money is gonna make my kid's life better, I might take the money.
Yeah, I mean, people say like, "Oh, I wouldn't take the money." If somebody threw $500,000 in front of your face, like, if just take this money, we'll end this, you're probably taking that money more likely than not.
That's feeding my child for a couple years at least.
Exactly. Like, you take care of that money, you're probably set for a long time. Like, people just be saying shit.
That's life-changing money for sure.
I think dude's a snob. I think karma's gonna get him eventually, man. And I think he got off pretty easy. Hopefully the NFL tries to make things somewhat right. But
they appealed it to try and get like a longer, like, indefinite suspension. The thing is like, it just makes it pointless, the fact that you had an external judge decide it, if you're just gonna instantly appeal it. It's like, why would you get it settled externally just to say, oh no, we don't like what you did, we're gonna try and change it?
I think it's more so for their image, like, oh, the judge said this, we want to add on to that.
Yeah,
I think that's why they did it. But
yeah,
did y'all read the report that the judge said?
No, not really.
Bro, she was like, basically, to sum it up, she's like, this is the worst act that has ever been reviewed by the NFL. Blah blah blah. This is terrible. This is egregious. We're only gonna give you 6 games though. That's basically to sum it up.
Well, I guess the main reason why they got the 6 games, and this might be a little skewed because I got this from hearing like Dan Patrick and stuff. So it's like I'm not saying he's like not reliable, but you know how mainstream like media is. But I guess it was because of like precedent was like Ben Roethlisberger and Ezekiel Elliott and stuff, and like their suspensions is kind of the stuff they looked at. Like, that's what they got. But even what he said on his like podcast was that the thing they were saying, like, oh, he's a first-time offender. But it's like, if you count just the ones that haven't settled, like, that's 4 separate women. That's 4 separate offenses. The fact that you got caught just with all of them at the same time, it's still 4 offenses. Whereas like Ben Roethlisberger was 1 offense. Ezekiel Elliott was 1 offense. Like, not saying that they weren't bad offenses, but if you're going off precedent for the first-time offense, he's not a first-time offender. He did it 4 times at least.
And 24, 26 allegations. Like, this is my thing. Women lie. Women definitely lie all the time. Humans lie. And I'm not saying any of those women did. If it was 1 or maybe 2, I'd be like, okay, that's maybe like, they might just be conspiring against the guy. Like, they might be best friends and just like, let's get money out of dude. But you're telling me 24 or 26 or however many it was.
Yeah, literally.
20 plus with potentially like 66 total women that you've seen over the last 2 years. I have no reason to believe anything. And what even made it even not funny, but like even more of a weird situation, the Browns kept claiming like, yeah, dude's he's showing remorse. He's sorry. And then Deshaun Watson's like, I don't have any remorse. Like, he basically said that. I don't have any remorse or sympathy. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, that's what he keeps claiming. I'm just like, man, messy situation, bro. And kind of hate to see it.
The Browns dropped that super corporate, like, it's like freaking cut and paste sort of apology letter, and Deshaun, he just made it worse. But yeah, it's just such a bad situation. Like, I'm not like when it all first started. I mean, over a year ago at this point, like I was kind of skeptical because stuff came out as soon as he requested a trade from the Texans, and so I'm like, the Texans, are they setting this man up? Like, he just like, or like somebody's got to be setting this man up because now his value is about to tank as soon as he requested a trade. Like, that's a little fishy.
But then again,
like,
why would they set him up?
But then
Like,
that many allegations came out, bro. No, you did something. You did something.
One of those women are telling one of them are telling the truth, and that's enough for me. That's enough for me.
Yes, you did something. You don't get something alleged against you 26 times and did 0 of them.
Hey, only he, the woman, and God knows what really happened. And I'm willing to say he at least did one of those women wrong. At least one. Like, I would bet some big money on that. At least one. Dude's a sicko. I don't know how we got to this point in the episode.
Hey, as a Bengals fan, me and all my Steelers and Ravens fan homies out there, we're all united in Brown slander for literally ever. Because the Browns knew, bro. The Browns knew. They
did not do their research. And I'm mad at the Saints for even being in that discussion for almost trading for him, man. Kind of mad about that.
Yeah, either people didn't do their research or they did their research and didn't care, which is arguably even worse.
They know.
Which is the NFL. They probably did that, and that makes it even more disgusting.
Yeah.
I almost feel for the NFL at some point, bro. I feel like there's so much stuff like this with the NFL. Like, you see it sometimes in baseball with like Trevor Bauer and stuff. But I feel like the NBA, I guess it's kind of bad timing now because the Miles Bridges thing. But I feel like the NBA is not nearly as bad with like off the field, off the court issues like the NFL is. Like, the NFL is by far the worst league in the world for like stuff like this happening.
True, but the NFL does also have a lot more players, so that's also something to consider.
Yeah,
baseball too.
They got like they got 4 times an NBA roster out there. So,
but yeah, even compared to like baseball, it's like the NFL is definitely worse for that kind of stuff. Not just like people getting in, like, because if you get in trouble, like say you're like public intoxication or something, you're like speeding, like I think like who was it? Hollywood Brown just got like a criminal speeding charge or something, like stuff like that. You know, okay, yeah, you probably did some stupid stuff that you shouldn't have done, but it's like stuff like this where you're like harming another individual, that there's really no place for that anywhere. And I do feel like that, even if you look at the amount of players, happens at a much higher rate in this league compared to other ones.
Yeah, and the way it seems like the NFL goes about things, like, depends on how good you are as a player. Like, when Ray Rice did what he did, I definitely don't think he should have ever played again. But the reason he probably did not play again is because he was washed at that point. If he was still good, like how Kareem Hunt is still good, and Kareem Hunt is still getting opportunities, he would have still been playing. The NFL is just weird like that. They're like, oh, you did this, it's bad. We'll suspend you a few games or half the season maybe. But if you can still produce, like, we'll still pay you. Like, we'll still bring you on the roster. It's kind of sick, man. It's very sick, man.
It's all about the bottom line, protecting the image. Just like Zeke, even if Zeke wasn't his like rookie year self or like his early on self, I guarantee you Zeke probably got a little bit less time off because he's the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys, one of the most popular players in the league because of that. He draws money and a lot of it.
Exactly. Oh, it's disgusting. It is. But that's the NFL, and that's
the world we live in, like it or not.
Happens more places than the NFL, believe it or not.
Now I really just feel like showing love to LeBron, man. This dude he's never in trouble. He's been at the top of the league for 20 years. That's the king.
Never in the news, man. Like, even if he does have, I don't suspect him of having any baggage, but even if he does, you never hear about it.
I love that post where it's like LeBron James handed millions of dollars at age 18, married to his high school sweetheart, no really great role model growing up besides just like a single mother, and that's really all he had. I'm like, man, they're still really like you can have the Jordan versus LeBron debate, but LeBron is the off court GOAT, man. Charity work, keeping it like just living a good life, being a good role model for young kids, because like young kids, they see their favorite athlete, like that's who they're looking up to, especially in like the Cleveland area. LeBron's the most famous person from Cleveland. Like he's a role model for probably millions of people, and so for him to be like that good of a public figure is just like that's the off court GOAT.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
arguably the on court GOAT as well.
Definitely. I gotta give some King slander for 2 seconds because they've signed Kent Bazemore to a 1-year deal.
They did. Oh,
Bro, remember when Kent Bazemore left the Warriors to go to the Lakers for more opportunity to win?
And then Kent Bazemore was going to be the missing piece when he came back from injury.
That's respectfully, that is Lazemore.
bro,
Because bro cannot catch a W.
bro, the missing piece. Everybody was the missing piece for the Lakers. Bazemore, Kendrick Nunn,
Avery Bradley,
and
then he was the reason they were bad.
I will never forget that, man. Like those were some funny nights at 1 a.m. on a school night, listening to Lakers Spaces, and them really saying Avery Bradley's the reason why we're losing all these games. Like, no, he's not. Y'all just are not a good team.
Facts.
It's like the reason is Avery Bradley, but it's Avery Bradley and this player and this player and this player and this player.
Yeah. If Avery Bradley is ever the sole reason you were doing good or bad, then there's a whole other story there. That's for sure.
I'm sorry, AD should have taken the reins as that team's number one, like after the bubble. LeBron should not be having to do this at this age, but he is. But it's like it's so impressive that he's doing it, but he should not have to do that.
I agree.
Like LeBron should be able to slide into like a. This is gonna be a really weird comparison because you're comparing it to LeBron, but LeBron he's done enough to where he should be able to slide into a David Robinson role. When Tim Duncan got drafted, David Robinson was still super nice for at least a couple years, but they had their new number one, and like David Robinson can still do what he did, but he did not have all the pressure on him as the sole number one like he did for the majority of his career. So I guess that's probably a weird comparison to make, but AD should have taken the reins in the number one.
Yeah, but we don't trust AD over here.
Yeah. AD is number one just means more injuries. So I don't know, man.
Is Lakers slander the worst slander on the pod right now?
I don't even know if it's slander. It might just be reality.
Yeah, true.
That is true.
For me, it's Hornets slander. I will continue to slander the Hornets, man, until they prove me wrong.
I think for me, it's probably going to end up being Washington slander. We haven't talked about Washington at all this episode.
They don't deserve
Devin dropped his hate video. Devin dropped the whole.
That was such a good video. Man.
Thanks, man.
He literally dropped a hit piece on Washington, but I think I might be. That might be the team I slander the most is Washington at this point.
They suck. They are garbage.
It's only because they paid Beal all that money. If they wouldn't have paid him all that money, I wouldn't even hate it. They could literally be like super ass.
I would have liked their future better if they just let him walk.
Right.
And they would have been a million times better off.
Honestly, like, we might get into a 30-minute conversation talking about that. I don't even want to start. Like, I wanted to have like Denny on the list or Ree Hatchamore, but I'm like, I don't even believe it.
Yeah, no.
Washington, like literally, we're talking really positive about the Kings. If the Kings take a 9 seed this year and they lose a playing game by 2, that's enough. I've seen enough. Washington is basketball hell.
If Washington makes, if they make the play in, it's still thumbs down for me. Like y'all suck, y'all garbage.
If the Kings break the playoff streak before Washington's become basketball hell. I don't need to see
Might
any more.
already be, man. Washington might be sports hell right now. All their teams are kind of middling to terrible. The Nationals.
The Nationals won the World Series like 2 years ago, though.
And then they traded everybody.
Yeah.
But if you've won a title in the last 5 years, you aren't in hell. And then even before they won the World Series, they had Bryce Harper, who was like a top 5 player at that time. So
I mean,
it's like I don't think the Nationals
had like so many top tier players at their position, and they're all gone now.
They're just bad now, but I don't think they were.
Right now it's hell.
I feel like for it to be hell, you have to be like consistently bad for like a while. Like realistically, like the Wizards have not been on shit since like 2017. Like
Are the Lakers hell right now?
No, because they won a title 2 years ago.
I would say that they're hell right now, though. They are in a very bad position.
You're not. You have a superstar and another star player, and a guy who can still put up star performances sometimes. I don't think it's hell. They just get as much slander as they do because the expectations are so high. But there's a reason why they have those expectations. The Kings were asked, and they were expected to be asked, and it was just a cycle of being asked. And they just did absolutely nothing right. They drafted bad. They didn't make any signings. The players they had didn't really develop or pan out that well. Like the Lakers, they still have some bright spots. Like they brought Malik Monk in. He was a good signing. He proved himself. Austin Reeves was a good pick. You know, they had like Caruso, but they got rid of him. It's like, but he was a guy they brought in that was good. And it's like, they find diamonds in the rough. Even before LeBron, when they were like super ass, they had so many good young players that are now panning out to be good players. So it's like, they have an eye for talent and they can usually find players. It's not as bad as the Kings.
I mean, the Kings is extensive. Like we've been in hell for so long, but the Lakers have touched hell though. Like they're down there right now.
Sure,
they have no future draft picks. The star player that they traded for cannot stay healthy, and he's probably not even part of the future. We just talked about Brandon Ingram earlier. He's turning into a young superstar. Don't have him anymore, and LeBron's probably either going to retire soon or leave soon.
It's just the Lakers have had one really,
and you still have Russell Westbrook.
It's like the Lakers this last season was hellish, but the season before that they were still a 7 seed with like AD injured, and they were still like cool, a playoff team. To be hell, I think you have to be like ass with no direction for like at least 5 years. Like the Nets when they got Pierce and Garnett, that was basketball hell for like 6 years. I think you have to have a multi-year period of being both ass and not even developing that well. Like you're just directionless for like multiple years.
Well, the Wizards were just a playoff team before last season. And they've only missed the playoffs a few times, like in the last decade.
It's almost like,
I mean,
to me,
they've been a playoff team, but they haven't done anything.
Well, in Gabe's logic, the Lakers were a 7 seed and got beat in the first round, but they were a 7 seed, and then they missed the play-in completely this year, and we're going into next season. Nobody has confidence in them, but they're still not in hell. I think they are.
If you count that year, it's still only 2 years. Like, I think it's got to be a little.
Going on 3.
Like,
do you really believe the Lakers? Like, are you confidently saying they will be back in the playoffs this year? Like, confidently, are you saying that? With the way their roster looks right now, knowing AD is probably going to miss at least 20 games, LeBron at this point is probably going to miss a good amount of games. Russell Westbrook is still there. Would you confidently say this is a playoff team going into the next season in the Western Conference?
I'm calling my shot. The Lakers are making the playoffs.
Oh God!
The Lakers are.
So the better question is who's not making the playoffs? That's what I want to know.
Utah's not making the playoffs.
Well, yeah.
Okay, let me look right now.
I'm gonna name off the 8 teams that I would consider the teams. Okay, outside of Portland, who you can consider. You're then considering the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Pelicans, the Mavericks, and the Timberwolves. Those are, in my opinion, by far the top 8 teams in the West. So who is not making it? That's what I want to know.
Let me tell you who the Lakers are better than. The Lakers are better than the Rockets. The Lakers are better than OKC. The Lakers are better than the Kings. They're better than the Spurs, okay? That's only one game away from the play-in. One team away from the play-in, all right? The Jazz
We
are
said
falling
playoffs.
off.
We said playoff stuff.
The Jazz are falling off. Okay, now listen. But they're in the play-in because they're going to be better than the Jazz. All right. So then, all you need is 2 teams to fall down. Okay, listen. So the 2 teams that you may be asking, who is going to fall down? It
Who?
could be anybody.
Or it could be nobody.
Ooh.
Because listen, it's not like those teams are going to be bad. It's just the Lakers are going to be better. But listen,
How?
if you
What do you think, Gabe? What are you banking on the Lakers being better? They didn't really get that much better this offseason. Russell Westbrook is still on the team. I don't think Russell Westbrook was the full problem, but he's part of the problem. Anthony Davis has yet to prove that he can stay healthy.
Because they got a real coach, bro.
Are you just banking on LeBron? Are you just banking on LeBron? Like,
I cannot bet against LeBron. I think AD is finally going to come back because Devin was talking earlier about how there's a full offseason where guys who have had nagging injuries can really rehab. That is you did say that.
I did, but
he's the king of nagging injuries.
AD had injuries pre-full off seasons being gone. This isn't a last 2 years problem for AD. I've been a professional and I've struggled with injuries.
Yeah, welcome to NBA YouTube, where you are now biting the AD. I think he's gonna be better. Tree, you're barking up that tree. And I'm just saying, it's not a good tree to go up, man. It's not a good tree to go up.
No, at this point, it's really just to prove the point that it's not hell. But if they're bad, if they're disappointing this year again, then I will give you your props and I'll say it could be basketball.
If we're being honest, outside of the bubble, they've been in hell for like a decade. Outside of the bubble year, they've been in hell for a decade.
Literally, though.
It's just the thing with being in hell is like they still had really good player development before they got LeBron. With Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Kuzma, Randall became an all-star. Like they had a lot of really good guys that they kind of gave a start and found, and like they had a direction. D'Angelo Russell before they got Lonzo, they had a direction. But now it's like when you have older players and you're losing, like honestly, I think that Chicago after Derrick Rose got traded was close to being in basketball hell because they were that perennial like 11 seed. Charlotte with Kemba Walker, I think that's closer to basketball hell because they were just perennial 9, 10, 11 seed, not bad enough to draft and get better, but not good enough to do anything significant. To me, that purgatory place, that's basketball hell. The Kings had Marvin Bagley as a number 2 pick. Before that, they were always drafting from like 5 to 9 because they were bad, but they were never bad enough to get the best player.
Okay.
So if the Lakers are the 15th, I think if the Lakers do not make the playoffs this year, they can be considered in hell.
I just think because it's the Lakers, the expectation is to be a contending team, and they're probably not going to be that.
So I think if you have that expectation, there's no way that you're in hell.
I mean, it's LA, it's the Lakers, man. It's the Lakers. But
if you took that team and moved them in Utah, no one thinks they're a contender.
Yeah, they do because they have LeBron James on them. LeBron was playing in Cleveland, Ohio, and they thought it was a contender.
I mean, they were second half LeBron.
In 2018, there was a 0% chance that they were beating the Warriors, but some people believed. And they were probably not beating the Celtics healthy either. But people believed. Because they had LeBron.
Yeah, shout out to Bron. But it's not the same. It's not the same with this Lakers team.
No, definitely not.
He's going playoff mode activated, man. 0 dark 30.
Yeah, you got to get there to activate it.
Yeah, he might have to activate it in October.
Big facts.
All right, him and AR-15 going to lead them back to the promised land, man. Just wait.
They're cooked.
No, in all reality, they're definitely cooked. I just want to believe, just for the sake of the basketball hell argument. I think just talking about like the basketball hell teams is an entertaining discussion in and of itself. Like those perennial 11 seeds, like that Hornets team and like the Bulls for a while. Like even lucky Phoenix was close to basketball hell for a while.
Oh no, they were. They missed the playoffs for like almost a decade, basically a decade.
I actually think
what
like
was a decade? Yeah,
It might have been. It would have been close. I don't think it was quite, but it was close.
maybe the 10th year they ended that drought. I think.
it's like
Yeah.
the Kings and like that Brooklyn Nets, like Brook Lopez days. Those are like the most basketball hell teams I've ever seen in my life. Even like the process Sixers, just because the fact that they had a direction and they were being bad on purpose. I don't even think that was basketball hell. They just were acquiring talent and they were just doing it on purpose. Same with OKC.
They
They've
did
been
win
back
10
in a while.
games. They did win 10 games one year.
But it's like they were doing it on purpose, so I can't consider it basketball hell. I think
They were
basketball
getting beat by
hell.
like 60 a night. Like they were legit losing
Yeah,
games by
I
60.
don't know if you're losing that much and you have Embiid and Simmons both missing so much time as soon as they get drafted.
Even if it's on purpose. Man.
Yeah, that's
just-
tough. That's
in
tough.
in basketball, either you're trying to win or you're developing talent or a mix of both. If you're not doing either, that's basketball hell. And it's like the Kings, they're trying to win, but they're not winning, and they're not developing any talent. It's hell.
It changes this year.
No direction.
It does change this year. Washington
Teams,
are
teams,
now that team in my mind. No doubt
Right.
about it.
You're not developing talent, and you're not winning.
Washington are developing Denny Avdia, who I really like, but is a very good role player, and that's about it. So
They have a lot of very good role players and no guy that they can look at like that's our franchise cornerstone. Bradley Beal's not that guy. He's not.
no, he's definitely not.
He's a good 2, maybe a very, very good number 3, but he's not that guy. He's not that guy, pal.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
And that's not far off why I think the same about Portland, because although Dame is better than Bradley Beal, he's still not quite that elite number 1, and so that's why Portland just continue to do the same thing over and over again. Different
Yeah.
team this year, but
Yeah, I think they missed Dame's peak window, like that 2019-20 season. That was probably the best chance that he would have had to be the number 1 guy on a really good contender, and they just didn't have the pieces around him, so they might have
No.
missed that window.
Yo, look at the time we've been going right now.
It
Crazy.
is.
We've been going for
Like
3
3
hours, and
hours.
it's been consistent energy and like conversation for real.
Legit.
And we didn't even take last week off. Usually the super long ones come like after we've taken a while off.
Last week was a 2-week episode.
Yeah, last week was a 2-week episode, and we went for like 2.5 hours with like 60% of it being after show.
Yeah.
We had after show and we came back to basketball, man. You know how it goes.
Because of Kent Bazemore.
Bro,
Man,
Listen.
God.
I'm just ready to like when Toronto's the 3 seed next year and goes to the conference finals. Like that's really gonna be crazy to me because
Look, okay, who's falling out? Because I've had people on my channel saying the Bulls gonna be top 4. Now you're saying the Raptors gonna be top 4.
all right,
We'll
I
go
don't see the
Cleveland up
Celtics
there.
falling off. Yeah, so who's falling off?
Listen.
I am intrigued.
okay. We saw what the Bulls did the second half of last season. The Bulls they're falling off. Okay, Philly is washed. They're falling off. Okay, Philly is washed. Listen, Tobias is washed.
I think this is where we wrap up the episode. I think
Yeah,
it's-
Harden is washed. Who has fallen? Miami is cooked. That's the
That might be the only valid point.
That's
might
the
be the only
bubble.
valid point.
That's the bubble heat. They're the bubble frauds, bro. Like they're not like that. Brooklyn, what is Brooklyn gonna do? Sit out the whole season again? What are they just not gonna play? Forfeit?
Detroit's gonna
they're
be a
not
top
doing
4
nothing
seed.
Raptors.
Detroit's gonna make that jump. They're gonna be top 4.
Detroit. Okay, yeah, Detroit will. Okay, yeah, Detroit will be top 4 because Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown can't win together, bro. Like they need to get rid of one of them if they want to win at the highest level.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Trade Jalen Brown.
Like they got Malcolm
Trade
Brogdon.
Tatum,
He's the
too.
future.
yeah, pick a direction, start rebuilding.
They don't have a direction right now. Like, are you developing talent? Because Jason Tatum's only 20, but they were also in the finals. So are you developing talent or are you trying to win? Make a decision.
I say build around Marcus Smart, man. He's in his prime right now.
That's a true point guard right there.
Yeah.
True point. Give him like 25 shots a game. Watch him win MVP.
But listen, the Raptors started off the season really bad last year, and they turned up. And Scotty Barnes is only getting better. Pascal started off the season slow. He is only getting better. Fred VanVleet is just going to be steady. Freddie, that's what he does. He's steady. Gary Trent Jr., he's 23 years old. He's going to be an all-star. OG Anunoby's going to come back as a crazy wing defender. Precious Achiuwa was on Devin's breakout players list. We got another breakout player coming. Chris Boucher, he's still one of the best bench bigs in the league. What don't you like about the Raptors? That's a contender.
All that for 42 wins. That's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy. We just won 48 last year in a better conference.
All that for 42 wins. Insane.
We won 48 games in a conference where the 10 seed was multiple games above 500.
The Knicks are going to be better than the Raptors.
What? Money. Put money on it. How much?
I bet $1.
$1? I'll bet you $1 at the end of the season. I'm expecting a Venmo from Tyrik 12 saying $1.
Got you, because I don't believe that at all, but I just wanted to say it.
All right.
$1. I only use Cash App though, so I'll send you on Cash App.
Devin's wearing the Raptors hat. That's his championship prediction.
That is I had a shower 30 minutes before the pod, and my hair needs a haircut. That's what that is.
Oh man.
That is definitely what that is. Man, this might be the year where I am the most conflicted about where I put teams before the season starts in terms of seeding. I have no idea, East or West. I don't know. Raptors could be top 3, Raptors could be 7th, because Cleveland could have a really good year, and Miami and the 76ers.
That's going to be an interesting video.
All fun and games until Curry wins number 5.
Yeah, probably.
If I'm looking at the conferences right now, I just if it's just Golden State and Boston again, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either, but I think
because Boston got better. Boston got better, and Golden State. People thought that Golden State had better competition last year, and what happened? They won.
Yeah.
We'll Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are only getting better. Jordan Poole's only getting better.
I was gonna have Jonathan Kuminga on my list just for the simple fact that Draymond Green is bugging, and soon enough, Jonathan Kuminga is gonna fill his role.
Facts.
Because Draymond, he's a 99 overall podcaster.
I don't listen to his podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, but I think he's I don't know, man. He might be transitioning from high impact player to Udonis Haslem very fast.
He is not a max player, so he needs to cut that shit out.
Facts.
Him wanting that max deal, bro. You have not had max production for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, okay. To be fair to him, he was a lock for defensive player of the year until he got injured. And Rudy Gobert did not have that much of an offensive game, and Rudy Gobert got a max deal off of having a lock for defensive player of the year. So
Rudy's a generational rim protector, though.
That's a whole other level.
Is Draymond not a generational defender?
He's very good in the war. He's a very good defender for sure, and he's been in the Warriors system also his entire career. And it's if you threw Draymond in Utah, I don't know if he'd be as impactful.
No,
I really think him playing with Steph and Clay has really opened up him a lot more. He's super valuable to what they do. Would he be as valuable for what everybody else does? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not 100% sold on that.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Right.
I think if you have Draymond in Utah, that might not even be a top half defense, respectfully. Exactly. Rudy just impacts team defense way more than Draymond can. And that's not to say that Draymond's not a good defender, because he definitely is, but Rudy's just on another level. Like you said, he's a generational talent. There's very few guys in NBA history that have been able to protect the rim and cause so much disturbance in the paint like he can. As much as from us at times and from everyone else, he gets a bunch of disrespect. He does what he does quite well.
Y'all think Bryce James is going to the Lakers?
Bro, he gonna be like, I can't believe he grew like a foot in like a year.
That's crazy. Although I pretty much did that, so I can definitely believe it. I just
I
didn't
did
grow to
too, yeah.
6'6". I
6'6".
grew to like 5'7", and then here we are.
I didn't. I always said I was like, I just have a feeling Bryce is gonna be better than Bronny. Just off simple hunch. I think it's mainly just because Bryce was funny, and I'm like, man, he's funny. He'll probably just be nice, just cause. And so far I think he might be. Bryce also just looks exactly like LeBron, to be honest.
Facts. Man. Y'all got anything else, though, man? We are 3 hours, 10 minutes in.
We're talking about LeBron's kids, man. It's time to wrap it up.
I mean, it's important. That's OKC's future draft picks, man.
Hey, if you got to this point, you were a real one. We appreciate you.
Big facts. Big facts. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more 3-hour podcasts, although maybe don't count on them every week. And we appreciate you guys for your continued support. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.